cuffs are off, man. Get right. Too many left in these leagues, but I ain't gonna leave. I'ma get right. Get right. Down to the bottom and scratch it for all the...
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus Grant.
This is AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers.
I got to give a shout out to y'all at Get Right Fantasy.
If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league?
Our league. Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
And best of luck with your podcast. Appreciate the support.
And you're tuned in to watch my boys at Get Right Fantasy Network. Get you right. Enjoy the show.
But I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go and roll your sleeves up. Yeah, go roll your sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I roll my sleeves up.
What up? What up? What up, world? We are back. I'm Anthony, aka Rasta, and this is Get Right Fantasy Network. And I'm here a little solo tonight. My boy Frank had a little emergency at the house he had to deal with, so apologize for being late. But we are here for an episode that I love to do, roster management, buy, sell, trade, man. One of my favorite shows of the week. So we'll get into that. So I'm not here just by myself. I got you guys in the chat here as well. So definitely feel free to participate. There will be some extra talk time. So I'd love to get your guys' takes on some of these segments that we'll go through here. But we'll try to make it fairly quick. We will go through and do our Thursday night football start sit. Of course, we'll get into the injury news and updates as well. And since it's only me here tonight, we'll talk my top three buy and sell trade targets. And then I'll kind of just go through a list of a few guys like I usually do with Frank, asking him if he's looking to buy, sell, or hold. So I'll see if I can kind of do that as well, kind of get through some names there. And then, of course, usually when I'm here solo, I like to just go ahead and get to some live Q&A throughout the show. So I'll probably incorporate some of that, but I will get to whatever questions at the end of the show as well. But you can always send us a super chat, and I'll get to it right away. And, of course, we appreciate that as well for helping support the show. So hope you guys are doing good here. We are heading into week 8 and no teams on bye. So we'll see what we get going. For those that are new to the channel, maybe tuning in for the first time, catching us here at Get Right Fantasy Network, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. We do have shows live pretty much every day of the week. So Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, you have the Get Right crew. We call it kind of the main show, but those guys are main too. But we have our waiver wire, buy, sell, trade like tonight. Friday, we do 2 shows, start sit, part 1 and part 2. And then we have our Sunday morning active live Q&A, getting your lineups right up until kickoff. On Tuesdays, we have our boy Tycoon at the Fantasy Boardroom doing his show. And then our boy Phil, you probably maybe caught a couple hours earlier today. On Wednesdays, he does his Dynasty Outlook, kind of trade talk, getting into live Q&A as well with a Dynasty focus. And then Thursday, he's doing his prop bets, DFS, and things like that. And then we're working on some other shows here, probably a live show here on Saturday as well too. So yeah, we're trying to bring you guys as much content as we can. So make sure you guys are leaving those like and subscribes. Hit those buttons for us here. It helps us out a lot. It doesn't cost you anything. And just come out, support, and enjoy the show. Participate. We love it. And be part of the community. So I see the chat starting to blow up here. So definitely get those questions going, and we'll get into it. We have D-Man is a wiener in here saying, what's good? How's it going? We got 2 of these nuts in here asking a question. So we'll definitely get to that there too. I got my boy Joe Ortiz in the house. What's up, Joe? How's it going, man? I appreciate you being in here. Got one of the mods in here. So there we go. And I see a couple new names in here. We got Cole Eager in here as well. And Parico here. I think that's how you say it. So we'll definitely get to your guys' questions. Make sure you guys keep them there. And again, anyone watching this later, if you want to just go straight to a certain segment, we will have the timestamps in there. So if you just want to skip to the buy, sell, trade, since we kind of just do a nice show here for you guys overall. If you're just looking for specific players, takes, anything like that, definitely check out the description. And that's where you'll find as well all the other links to all the other affiliate shows here, like the Boardroom, like the Extra Point, our boy Kendall over at the Fantasy Football Tavern, and of course our boy Tycoon over there in the Fantasy Boardroom. I think I might have said that one already. Sorry guys, I'm here by myself, but there we go. So trying to produce and do all this here. So hopefully we'll get through this here. Let's get that banner going. So without any further ado, man, let's get into the show. Like I said, keep those questions coming in the chat. I will get to them here shortly. If you do want to throw me a super chat, I'll get to it right away. Otherwise, I kind of want to get some of this stuff banged out here real quick, and then definitely get to that live Q&A stuff, because that's what we're here for the most. So let's start with some Thursday night football. So we have Vikings coming in favored by 3 at the Rams with the 48-point over-under. A little bit of injury news here. Some good news. We have Cooper Kupp. Looks like he's going to be back. Didn't quite go on IR, so he is ready to go here today. I think he probably could have played maybe last week if they didn't have a Thursday game, but they probably just decided to hold him out one more game. Rams are coming in 2-4. Vikings are 5-1. Had their first defeat in a heartbreaking fashion last week. So only Kansas City remains as the only undefeated team. We have a little bit of news on Puka Nacua. They did open up his practice window. He's been out since week 1, dealing with that PCL injury. It's a grade 2. So he's being basically listed as questionable at this point. So we'll just kind of have to see how things go tomorrow. I'm sure we'll get, some news as we get closer to kickoff, kind of looking like he'll be a game time decision. And then on the other side of the ball, we have TJ Hawkinson. His practice window was open. He's coming off that ACL injury as well. He was listed as questionable and will be a game time decision as well. So let's get to just our quick must starts. Of course, we're starting Justin Jefferson. We're starting Kyron Williams. Of course, if with Cooper Kupp playing, we're starting him. I think at this point, Sam Darnold's earned that opportunity to start here in 1 QB leagues at this point. So I think I'd find a way to get him into my lineup. At this point, I'm kind of starting him over kind of Pat Mahomes, but now with DeAndre Hopkins, it makes it a little more interesting. So we'll get into that here in a second as well. And of course, Aaron Jones. I think I mentioned Kyron Williams. So those are guys I'm for sure starting. The guys I'm looking to sit, Ty Chandler, Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell, Jalen Naylor. If Hawkinson is active, I'm pretty much going to sit him as well. And if he's not, I'm definitely sitting Johnny Munt. I just want to see kind of how the offense comes back and what kind of target share he's going to get in his first week. I don't know if I'd put my eggs completely in that basket yet. But the way tight end's going, if you have him and you want to just get him in your lineup, I don't mind you playing him at all. If he is active, of course. But the players that are kind of on that borderline that I would like to have discussed here with Frank, but I'll kind of just go through it myself and give you guys my takes, and give me your takes there too as well. I see Cole came in and said he's saying Vikings -7, so I don't know if he's a Vikings fan. So we'll see. Let me just double check and make sure the line didn't change on me or anything. No, I still have -3. So it must be a Vikings fan in there. But yeah, so Matt Stafford. I mean, if he's getting, Cooper Kupp back, I think that definitely pushes him up the, potential start ladder. I like him more as a QB2 or a super flex. If you can. I don't know if he's quite there in 1 QB yet. We do have kind of some better options, but you have, someone like Baker who might fall out of the top 12 here, missing his top 2 weapons. So, there may be spots for someone like Stafford to creep up. We do have, so for now, I probably kind of have him as a sit in 1 QB, but definitely a start in 2 QB and super flex. Jordan Addison, I kind of have on that, wide receiver 3 flex spot kind of fringe situation. I think here against this Rams defense, they're going to be, kind of mad coming off this last loss. So I do like Addison. Full disclosure, I do have probably out of my 18 teams, I probably have Addison on like 16 of them. So it could be a little bit of bias there, but it was nice to see him back up to 85% of the snaps against Detroit. Did only see 4 targets, 3 catches for 66 yards. But I think there's, more meat on the bone, so to speak here. And again, they will be playing against the Rams. So hopefully it's a nice, a nice battle again with Cooper Kupp being back there, and we can get some Jordan Addison work. So I like him more as a wide receiver 3 or flex if you can. I'm sitting him in 2 wide receiver leagues. Then you got someone like Demarcus Robinson. I think, of course, if Puka and Kupp are back, you're definitely sitting Robinson. If it's just Cooper Kupp, it does get interesting with Robinson, because I'm sure they're going to go ahead and, they're going to go ahead and obviously funnel Cooper Kupp. I wouldn't be surprised if he had maybe like 12 or 13 targets here in this game. But, we did see Tutu Atwell. We did see Whittington. Maybe they'll come in and kind of take some of that load off here in the first game. But I think Demarcus Robinson could be a sneaky play. Again, more like a flex, not even so much as a wide receiver 3, but I kind of like him as a flex spot in a 3 wide receiver league. So when you're playing that 4th potential wide receiver, I wouldn't mind maybe sticking him in here. If you don't have any other kind of better options, and a lot of wide receivers down right now. Robinson's an interesting play for me. Again, with Cooper Kupp back. I think it also limits Colby Parkinson a little bit there at the tight end position. But again, getting somebody like Kupp back, who's going to garner a lot of attention, could help open up some targets for some of these other guys and make them a little more valuable. And then, if Puka Nacua does play, because he's been out so long, I don't know if I'm in a total hurry to just throw him back out there right away. Maybe they have been super cautious with him and, are going to keep him, obviously kept him out almost 7 weeks at this point. So maybe he is just full on raring and ready to go. But I would assume there's going to be some sort of, easing back in. Obviously, we've seen so many hamstring injuries, Mike Evans, Nico Collins, and these guys were balling out, let alone obviously, I know he wasn't sitting on his couch for these last 7 weeks, but when you're dealing with a knee injury, you're not able to condition and do those type of things like you normally can. I'm sure he was doing like pull work, and things like that, resistance, low impact, type stuff to keep his cardio up. But I'm sure, there's going to be somewhat of a snap share, reducing his snaps, type thing. So, I'd like to keep him out of my lineup, kind of like Hawkinson. But I think, with Cooper only missing just a few games, I think, he'll play pretty much his full allotted snaps there. So that pretty much wraps up that game there. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with any of that there, have any questions. Otherwise, we will continue to move on here with the show. So let's get into some news topics and injury updates. I'm sure you guys have all heard by now. DeAndre Hopkins traded to the Chiefs. So you guys saw it there on the thumbnail. We have, basically Chiefs getting DeAndre Hopkins. You have the Titans getting a 5th round pick that will elevate to a 4th rounder if Kansas City makes the Super Bowl. And if Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps, but then Tennessee will eat $2.5 million of his salary. So those are kind of the full details there. So pretty decent deal. Mahomes gets a weapon. I think this, definitely, I don't want to say definitely hurts Worthy, but, there's definitely a chance for him not being just a complete number 1 target over there now, but this could help him with, being able to have DeAndre Hopkins, Kelsey kind of working underneath and in the intermediate range and be able to still use Worthy as that field stretcher to open these 2 guys up. So hopefully this will help the Mahomes owners let them have a 20-point game here. It's been a little while, it seems like, but it'll be interesting to see. One of the best that we've seen do it, and DeAndre Hopkins, with some people's current GOAT. He's not quite there yet, but definitely kind of on his way in Patrick Mahomes. Hopkins to the Chiefs. Let me know what you guys think about that. Saints, and just in some other news, we had Kamara get paid 2 years, $24.5 million extension. He is under contract through 2026. You guys heard me kind of on the Monday show. I was wondering maybe they're going to shut him down, maybe try to trade him, but they end up signing him and committing to him, long term. So obviously with Rashid Shaheed out, Olave dealing with a concussion, we've seen what could potentially happen, him getting kind of phased out if they're not totally competitive. Again, he is older, so why put all that, work on him if it's not needed? But hopefully they can get some more competitive games. Obviously, hopefully getting Olave back, we'll get into here in a little bit. We'll go ahead and, looks like it'll definitely be the Kamara show. So he is sitting, top 3 in points per game and overall points right now, even with that bad game. So Alvin Kamara will be a Saint through 2026. We had Andy Dalton. He was involved in a car accident. Dave Canales said that he ended up spraining his thumb in the car accident. No other serious injury, so that's always good to hear. Bryce Young will get the start here week 8. Andy Dalton, again, was a DNP today. So then they've already named Young as the starter. I don't know if that's quite them saying, okay, we're going to go back to Bryce, or if it has to do with the accident at this point. So it's kind of wait and see. But it is going to be a tough spot for him to come back in against this Broncos defense. So yeah, bad luck to bad week to kind of get your opportunity to show what you have and maybe what you've learned sitting. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Dennis Allen said that Spencer Rattler will continue to be the starter this Sunday. And I've even heard some talks that they might even stick with Spencer Rattler, even if Carr is healthy. I've kind of heard conflicting things. I heard, Carr's going to, if he's healthy, he has a chance to play this week. So just something to kind of monitor there. Again, I just hope they get Olave back so we can see, what could potentially happen there. Because I did like the interview. That Rattler said, he knows he needs to get Olave the ball. Again, with no Shaheed. We'll get into a little later, spoiler alert, but Olave might be a buy low target for me right now. But we'll get into that here in a little bit. So we have Browns coach Kevin Stefanski saying Jameis Winston will be named the starter this Sunday against the Ravens. You had Dorian Thompson-Robinson dealing with injury to one of his tendons on his middle fingers on his throwing hand. He was limited today, but they said the only reason he was technically active last week and Watson's backup and Winston relegated to the QB3 position was due to more game planning. It sounded like they had some, running packages with DTR that they wanted to kind of incorporate in the game. So it looks like Jameis will pretty much be the starter moving forward. So we'll see, what kind of ends up happening there. But I expect it to be Winston, and this is what we were waiting for. All of us Amari Cooper owners, but Cooper went to Buffalo last week, so kind of 1 week too late there. But we'll see what happens. Maybe this is a little better for Jerry Jeudy. We did see Cedric Tillman, kind of one of the hot waiver wire ads this week, having those 12 targets. So we'll see what happens here with Winston at the helm. Then we had Jamison Williams suspended for 2 games. We kind of heard that on Monday, but it looks like he was informed of that positive test this week, and he's still weighing whether to accept the 2-game suspension or appeal it. The appeal window is limited. I believe he has like 5 days from what I saw and read. So we'll see if he kind of ends up appealing that or just accepting the 2 games and moving on. So, worst case, maybe they reduce it to 1. If it was a false pot, I don't know. So we'll see what goes on there. But Jamison Williams, no wonder why he was doing so good, I guess. Cited for PESs, performance enhancing substance. They're not using drugs anymore. So I guess it sounds a little better. And some other good news, we had Keaton Mitchell, running back for the Ravens. They opened up his 21-day practice window. Remember, he tore his ACL, pretty brutal. Injury last December. He was playing so well, and we were all excited to kind of see what happened. Obviously, they make the big trade for Derrick Henry in the offseason. So Keaton Mitchell come back. He was maybe going to be the lightning to Derrick Henry's thunder. Justice Hill's been doing pretty good in that role so far. So we'll see, if he kind of regains his form. Again, it was a late tear. He is, at that, 10-month mark, basically. And we all know those ACLs are anywhere from like 9 to 12 for full recovery there. He's obviously not going to play this weekend, and otherwise they said there's no timetable, and they're just hoping he can be ready before the 21-day practice window expires, so they'll know more tomorrow when he goes full speed. Some not as great news. Bucs wide receiver Mike Evans dealing with that hamstring. They're saying he's basically going to be out until after the week 11 bye, so possibly return week 12. And then they correspondingly made the move to place Chris Godwin on season-ending IR, basically dealing with that ankle dislocation. He had surgery today. They said it was pretty successful, all things considered. So I guess there wasn't too much stuff going on over there. So, we'll see what happens. So looks like Scott said, and I apologize, keep your stuff coming in the chat, guys. I will definitely get to it. Not ignoring you there. I am solo, so I might miss a couple things, but definitely get it in there. And I will have a live Q&A segment at the end of the show. Of course, you can send a super chat and we'll get to it right away. But Scott says, what's up with the Lions receivers? Is that true about the Williams suspension? So yeah, we just covered that. We're waiting to find out if he will appeal or not. So looks like it is true. So there we go. Free JMO. Just stop making bad decisions, man. This guy's just making bad decisions from the gambling and now PSs, and just come on, man. Just play some football. You're on a good team. You have a chance to maybe even make the Super Bowl. Like, why are you gonna mess that all up, man? Just come on. All right. So that's kind of the bigger topics. I'll kind of run through some of the smaller stuff here. Again, it is Wednesday, so take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. But there is actually finally some sort of good news coming back here. And then just some things, to kind of keep our eyes on and see how they progress through the week. So we'll start at the quarterback position. We have Jaden Daniels dealing with that rib injury. He was a DNP today. He was considered week to week. So it looks like Mariota will get the start this week, but just something to keep your eye on. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor dealing with that high ankle sprain. He finally returned back to practice, albeit in a limited fashion, but good to see him coming. They said there's a chance he will be able to suit up again this weekend, or not again, but back this weekend. We have the Panthers running back, Jonathan Brooks. He's in his 21-day practice window, coming off that ACL injury in college, yet to make his NFL debut. He was limited again today. So we'll see what happens, obviously, with the way Chuba Hubbard's been practicing, the way Chuba Hubbard's been playing. I don't think they're really in a hurry to rush him back. And now they're going back to Bryce. So who knows what that means exactly. I would have liked to have seen Dalton with him. But, we'll see what ends up happening. So maybe Brooks holds off another week, maybe until Dalton gets back. Seahawks running back Ken Walker, still dealing with the lingering illness from last week. He was obviously able to go last week, had a great game. Charbonnet didn't do anything with his touches. Walker killed it and then sick again, so they gave him the day off today. So he was DNP. You have the Chiefs running back Kareem Hunt. He popped up on the injury report. Didn't look like he got kind of injured over the weekend. Didn't really hear much of it, but came out today. Says it's a hip, and he was limited. Maybe it's just more of a vet rest day. Again, he is older, just kind of came off the couch, so to speak, and has had like 20 plus carries in each of the games. So maybe they're just giving him a little bit of R&R. So we'll see what happens there. Patriots running back Ramondre Stevenson. He's dealing with that foot injury, also something personal. So he was DNP today. You have the Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf. A little bit of good news here. He was dealing with that MCL grade 1 sprain. He was a DNP today and expected to be DNP tomorrow. They said they'll see how Friday goes, and they're not ruling him out for Sunday. So, we know that grade 1 MCL is about 1 to 3 weeks on average. If you get the right treatment, do the right things, maybe put a brace on, he could be good to go Sunday. We have 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. He's dealing with that pneumonia. He was released from the hospital yesterday. He is still listed with that wrist injury as well that he suffered the previous game. Then you have Juwan Jennings dealing with that hip injury. He was DNP as well. And then, of course, Brandon Ayuk was placed on season-ending IR with that ACL and MCL tear that we heard about. So best wishes to him on a speedy recovery. Hope you come back next year, and let's make a run for it. But yeah, Shanahan's not even ruling out Deebo here this week, and said he hopes to get Juwan Jennings back as well. So just something to monitor throughout the week. Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. He was a DNP today. We saw him kind of get that hip drop type tackle in the game on Monday night, and didn't really do much. I think he only had 1 target, if I recall. I'm looking it up right now. So yeah, only 1 target for 11 yards. Still played 71% of the snaps. A little less than his normal. I mean, he's anywhere between 67 to 89% of the snaps. So to see him at 71, was a little less, but he only played 72% of the snaps the week before against Washington. Went 9 for 9 for 132. And then before that had 7 catches on 12 targets for 111 yards. So we'll see what happens. Just something to kind of monitor. But yeah, tough week there, especially in kind of a shootout with Lamar Jackson putting up 5 touchdowns and all those yards. Zay Flowers has 1 catch for 11 yards. So a little tough there, but we'll see what happens. Raiders wide receiver Jacoby Myers dealing with that ankle injury. He's set to return to practice today after missing the last 2 games. So we'll just kind of continue to see that. I probably didn't even need to really include that on the list, but hey, I know there's some Jacoby Myers guys out there, so I threw that on there just for you guys. And then we have the Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster dealing with that hamstring injury. He was a DNP. Sounds like it's going to be multiple weeks. We've seen kind of these. AJ Brown was out a month. Collins was out. Is going to be out a month. Placed on IR. They haven't placed him on IR yet, so we'll see what happens. But obviously, with the big move with D Hop, that kind of shows you that they're still looking to get someone else, and probably really shows you that Worthy's definitely not that guy because they try to go get Juju and then they go try to get D Hop, and I don't want to say not giving Worthy the chance. He's just not a number 1 type guy. So we'll see what happens there. Jets wide receiver Devontae Adams still dealing with that hamstring, quote unquote. He was a DMP today, most likely a vet rest day. Aaron Rodgers was limited dealing with his knee and hamstring. But both of those guys will be good to go. Hopefully I can get more than 30 yards, I believe, this week. So we'll see what happens there. Mentioned it earlier, but Saints wide receiver Chris Olave still dealing with that concussion. He was limited today, though, which was good to get him out there. He is still technically in the protocol, so we'll kind of monitor it throughout the week and see if he progresses through and gets cleared by the independent neurologist. Panthers wide receiver Adam Thielen, he was designated to return from IR. Totally forgot Adam Thielen was even on the team until I saw this news pop up. I was like, oh yeah, had been mentioning Xavier Legette. Over there, obviously Deontay Johnson. I was doing kind of well under, since Dalton's been there. But I forgot Adam Thielen's there, so maybe that does come back and help out a little bit. Another weapon for Bryce. Then for tight end news, we have George Kittle, Niners tight end, dealing with the foot injury. He was a DMP today. Seemed to kind of get banged up a little bit over the weekend. And then Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. He was still DNP after DNP all last week, dealing with that hamstring injury, like we said, about 3 to 5 weeks. So there we go. And Izzy, what's up, man? Says, continue the great work, man. RIP to his Cowboys. Sorry to hear that, brother. They still have a chance, man. It's not over. That division could be wide open. You definitely didn't suspect Washington to be anything, man. But there's still a chance. Eagles aren't playing great. And, they're still 4-2. But, the Cowboys were kind of like this last year. And then Dak and CD went on a heater. So maybe they got their stuff together here. I don't want it to happen this weekend, obviously, going up against my Niners. But, they're sitting at 3-3. So they're not, totally out of it right now. But you definitely want to see them playing better. So appreciate the super chat, man. Have a good one. And, yeah. Any other questions? Let me know. But appreciate the good words, man. So yeah. What else do we got? I think that might be it. So that wraps up our news and notes. Again, if you guys want to drop a super chat there, like Izzy did, appreciate it. Helps out the show. I will get to it right away. Otherwise, I do see you guys' stuff here in the chat, and I will get to them when I get to the live Q&A segment. And maybe I can, maybe I'll go up and pop into a couple of these things here, especially the folks that were here early. So, two of these nuts. Hopefully, you're still here, man. Let's get to a quick question for you. Let me change the banner here to our live Q&A. I think I have one of those banners here somewhere. There it is. All right, so live Q&A. Let me get to the comments. Sorry, producing by myself tonight, guys. But let's get to it. So 2D's nuts. He says it's half PPR. He's got Chase, Flowers, Reed, Wilson, Johnson, I assume Deontay, D-Hop, J-Mo, and Jacobs, Mixon, Trubez as running backs. What wide receiver should he trade for? What what wide receiver do I trade for a running back to pad his his running back depth? So you're sitting with Jacobs, Mixon, and Chuba right now. Obviously, with Brooks coming back, Chuba may not be that RB3 or really almost RB1 that he's kind of been here later. So some running backs, that I'd be looking to get right now, and it might be a little jumping the gun here because I have these guys to talk about here literally in the next segment. But I'll throw a name out there for you. Couple names maybe you can go get Brian Robinson Jr. Maybe you can throw I want to keep obviously Chase, Flowers, Reed, Wilson. Those guys are good. If you can maybe package Deontay Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins, or maybe even JMO, even though he has the 2-game suspension right now with Hopkins or Johnson. But definitely, you could sell Hopkins because his value is almost at peak value right now, which I'm going to get into here in a second. Obviously, he was on the thumbnail, so going to be talking about him. But if I could package him and maybe one of those other wide receivers to go get someone like Brian Robinson, I would definitely, look to do something like that. You have Jonathan Taylor coming back, your Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson. Those windows, kind of slammed shut at this point. Maybe there's a small chance you can get David Montgomery, with those two. You might be able to get someone like James Cook. I actually have him as a sell, but, could be someone if you're just looking for more like an RB3 type guy. He could be someone there. It is half PPR, so it's a little tough. J.K. Dobbins might be nice. Maybe you can grab someone like Tony Pollard, who's been sneaky consistent there. I think the buy low window for Devon Achane is kind of coming on as well. Maybe there's still a chance to get someone like Connor, but I want to make sure you got Benson as well, just in case, he can't make it through this season. You kind of have that backup there. I'm personally staying away from guys like Najee and Alexander Madison and Javonte Williams. But, if you can maybe get someone, like Chase Brown for Deontay Johnson or, DeAndre Hopkins straight up, I'd be looking to do something like that. Or maybe even a package for even Rico Dowdle. Shout out to Izzy's Cowboys there. Rico Dowdle is a little interesting with his usage picking up here. They're coming out of the bye week. And their schedule opens up and is pretty nice here to finish off the fantasy season. So he might be someone I actually traded for him today with one of the guys here in the chat. So he'd be someone, I might be looking to get as part of a package as well. So, those are some of the names, and I'm definitely not trading Chase, Flowers, Reed, or Wilson. If you go up to like Reed or Wilson, then you definitely want to shoot higher. Obviously, I would say someone like Josh Jacobs, but you already have him. But, someone, I don't know if you get like Kyron or Jonathan Taylor, you're kind of going to be at that like David Montgomery, type range there, I think. Maybe a little less than that. Again, Tony Pollard seems like a good target for you there. It still might be a little much for Wilson. But yeah, so hopefully that helps you. 2 of these nuts, let me know. And we'll go from there. And he says he's in first place, 6-1, 3 wide receiver, 2 running back, no flex. So yeah, I don't think any of that changes what I said there. So that's even better. D-Man, he's a winner. He says, can I get some advice on start sits this week? He said, oh, never mind. I heard what you just said. Yeah, this is normally the trade show. We do have the start sit show on Friday. It's actually 2 different shows, and we run for almost like 5 hours total between the 2 shows back to back. So, we definitely will have all the injury news and stuff like that. But if you have a start sit question now, especially if it involves somebody, with a Thursday game, definitely drop it to me now. I will ask any type of question. It just may take me a little longer, and I may not have the full information depending on who's involved with, injuries and stuff like that. But again, it's ask me anything, man. Go ahead and drop what you want. We have Perico. Hopefully I'm saying that a little right there. I know I probably butchered it. But he says, drop McPherson for Dicker or Lutz, and Giants or Falcons defense this week. Ooh, hit me with a kicker and a defense. So out of my 18 leagues, I only played 2 of them that have a kicker and a defense. My 2 longest standing leagues, Frank will not get rid of those positions. I told him just add another flex. Be a lot funner. But no, we want to keep going with this kicker and defense thing. with that said, Dicker made what, like a 59 yarder this week. I don't mind. Broncos, I don't know how much they're really going to score. Kind of get in field position. They're not going to play New Orleans every week. So, or in New Orleans, with Lutz being able to kick kind of back at home, so to speak. But, I did personally kind of move off McPherson this week, actually. I think who did I pick up? So, whoever the kicker for Minnesota is, Reichard or something like that, whoever that guy is, that's who I kind of played in front of him. At least in my kicker league scoring, he's been scoring very well, very consistent, obviously with that offense, putting up points, playing in a dome, most of the time as well too. So he's definitely someone I'm looking to replace McPherson with, but I'd keep definitely an eye on him to see how they go. But yeah, after those 2 bad weeks with McPherson, because I had him in both of those leagues, I did have to actually move on last week, and I was happy I did. Somebody else would be Seibert once Jaden Daniels comes back, the kicker for Washington. He's another guy that I kind of keep my eye on as well. Other than that, everyone else kind of seems fairly inconsistent, or they're already there. Maybe someone like Jake Elliott you can look for. Maybe he got dropped during the Eagles bye week. I know he has a leg, and who's the guy, the kicker in Seattle? I know he has a boot as well. He's always someone I look for as well too. A lot of the kicker, I at least was able to talk Frank into changing to yardage for the field goals, and one of them he forgot to actually take off the previous field goal scoring, 3 points for 0 to 30 yards, 4 points for 30 to 40, 5 points for 50 plus, and added the yardage on top of that. So we have some kickers scoring almost 30 points in a week. So the position's actually pretty important. So we're hoping to fix that next year or leave it. I don't know. It's kind of fun. So it's nice when a kicker on Monday night just comes back and wins you a league after scoring 30 points from a kicker. It's kind of crazy. Makes it a little interesting. So I'll take a couple more here. Cole said, keep McPherson and the Falcons D. Oh, that's right. He asked a defensive question this week. Let's see. Where are we? Week 8. Again, when we're asking start sit on Wednesday, might take me just a little bit longer, as I don't know the schedule by heart quite yet. When you kind of do this as a quote unquote analyst, you kind of have your week dedicated to certain things, for the show prep and, things like that. We're not just managing a team. So you're not just focused on 1 or 2 teams and looking at schedules and all that kind of stuff. There's so much that goes on. We kind of have our process throughout the week to keep our sanity. And so I usually don't get into start sit until actually after this show, after we prep for buy sell. So let's see. Atlanta plays Tampa Bay. Yeah. So not a bad option, obviously, with them missing, those 2 pieces. We saw them kind of fall apart. They will have a whole week to kind of put in a game plan to, hopefully benefit it. Maybe they get Trey Palmer back. He's been dealing kind of with some concussions. I don't know if he was active last week or not. And then, of course, Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillan. So, I don't hate it. So it really just depend on who else you have. But unless you have a crazy, good option on the waiver wire, I don't mind that matchup at all. But yeah, top defenses are going to be Broncos against the Panthers, with Bryce Young returning. Chicago defense against Washington if there's no Daniels might be interesting. You got Pittsburgh against the Giants, which will be good, but I know those defenses are all owned. And who else? Jets against Patriots might be interesting. Green Bay against Jacksonville. They've been looking a little better. Baltimore's probably taken against Cleveland. So, yeah, of all the ones that are, that are out there, I wouldn't mind just keeping the Falcons there against Tampa Bay. So, with the injuries. So, not bad. All right. So, I will continue to get to the rest of these here. I appreciate you, Stay Blessed, saying what's up. I might have put that up earlier. 2D's Nuts says that's his team name this year. That's hilarious. And then D-Man is a winner. He did actually put his trade question in here. So he says he has London, Reek, BTJ, let's go. I just traded for BTJ today. Henry, Hunt, Tua, and Kraft. He says, should I start Hunter Henry, Baker Mayfield, or James Conner? Like in a super flex position? Is this what you're asking if you're still watching here? D-Man is a wiener. If you're just asking like overall, should you just start or sit these guys? Obviously, it's going to depend on, what you have. I want to stay away from Baker a little bit here until I see what happens, with these new weapons and new game plan and see if, that works. He was still able to put up fairly decent numbers because he did have that touchdown to Mike Evans before Evans went down, and then was able to throw 2 touchdowns to Rashad White. I mean, I'm not counting on that to happen every week, but it still did happen. So, I think they still can move the ball, but if you have another option, which I assume you probably did because you probably either picked Mayfield up off the wire or holding 2 quarterbacks, but if you completely gave up on whoever you had first and you just have Baker Mayfield, again, against the Falcons, even though I said, go ahead and start the Falcons defense, from the other side of that, it's not a terrible matchup. And again, you're not dealing with the, shell shock of everything that happened. And then, you're playing with a little extra, heavy heart, with what happened to Godwin. So maybe they kind of rally behind that. So again, just would depend on your options. As far as James Conner, he's pretty much a set and forget, RB2. And until he's hurt, like he's in my lineup as an RB2 and potentially sometimes an RB1. So yeah, don't mind at all. Travis said he traded Bigsby and Etienne for Chubb. Not bad. It's tough kind of deciding between the two. So I could see if you had both of them, you just kind of want to move off that, altogether and get someone like Chubb. We'll see what happens. Chubb was able to fall in the end zone, but obviously without Cooper, who knows what type of scoring opportunities, this offense will be able to get. And where's Cleveland's? What does their rest of their schedule kind of look like here? So we have them. They're going up against Baltimore this week, which is going to be tough. Chargers have a sneakily tough defense there as well. Then they're in a bye week, week 10. Come back against the Saints, which is right now. They're a little banged up on the defensive side. 12 and 13, they get Pittsburgh and Denver, which is hard. Then Pittsburgh again. Ooh, that's rough on the 14th. But he's been playing against those guys type of defenses kind of his whole career. Then they get the Chiefs, which is another tough defense, and that's week 1 of the playoffs. Cincinnati and Miami will be nice if you make it through that Chiefs matchup week 15. So again, I'm personally an ETN fan. I actually have Bigsby here as one of my sells. We'll get into that here in a second. But I mean, I don't hate it. You just hope Chubb comes back and is the guy that he once was. And you got Jerome Ford dealing with that hamstring. Foreman's not going to be a threat, and Pierre Strong's not going to be a threat. So it should be, his backfield. It's just, how much work is he going to get and how quickly. And that schedule is brutal between Steelers, Broncos, Steelers, Chiefs for 4 weeks. That might just be 4 weeks you can't even start him. Or if you do, maybe he's lucky if he gets 6 or 7 points in full PPR. So yeah, again, remember he's not really used in the passing game. So we'll see what happens. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Everyone else just kind of saying what's up here in the chat. So we'll get to some more stuff here. Let me get to the rest of the show here, and then we'll just finish off with questions until you guys are out of questions. So let's get to Rasta's top 3 trade targets of the week. So we will start with, do we want to go buy low first? All right, let's go buy low. So Rasta's top 3 players to buy low. So number 1 guy I have as my buy low. You saw him on the thumbnail. That's going to be Devonta Smith. So Smith is coming off a terrible game, 1 catch on 2 targets for -2 yards. So not a great, I don't want to say return because he came back the week before. But not a good showing against the Giants. Thought it would be a smash spot, but I believe Hurts only had to throw the ball 13, 14 times or something like that. So, not really too many targets to really go around. They were able to pretty much dominate this game. Saquon Barkley had a big game, obviously in the revenge game. I think it was probably just more to that. I think, Sirianni and his in his face. Just wanted to kind of stick it to the Giants a little bit, obviously division rival, and just say, we took your piece and we're going to use them against you. And I think that's what happened. Glad we got that, bomb from AJ Brown, Mr. Arthur Wan. So that was nice. But other than that, especially without Goddard right now, historically, Devonta Smith has pretty much smashed with Goddard not in the lineup there. So we hope to see that. I'm expecting a big week this week in a shootout at Cincinnati. So that should be a really good one. And hopefully we see the offense open up. Then you get a nice matchup against Jacksonville, and then at Dallas, divisional game, at Washington, at the Rams, and then against Baltimore, and then Carolina. Playoffs are a little tough with Pittsburgh that week 1, but then he gets Washington and Dallas again to finish it off. And obviously, that could be nice. Good opportunities there, especially against Dallas. If he's, AJ Brown is, I'm sure, going to have the Diggs coverage shadow on him. So that could mean, some great opportunities for Devonta Smith coming up. I think with this game he just came off of, sometimes that recency bias is there. But besides this game, he's really basically scored no less than 15 full PPR points. And that's even with, I think AJ Brown was gone for, a couple of those games. And then he was gone a game, himself with that concussion. But when this guy's typically on the field, he's putting up fantasy points. So if I can go buy low on him right now, I would. And go check him out, Devonta Smith. All right, so next guy I have, mentioned him a lot here today. That's going to be Chris Olave. So Chris Olave, again, dealing with that concussion right now. Obviously, has Spencer Rattler right now. They do have the Chargers coming up, but then week 9 they get Carolina, Atlanta, Cleveland, a bye week 12. Then they get the Rams, the Giants, Washington, Green Bay, and Las Vegas in the championship. So I really like the schedule. Not to mention, no more Rashid Shaheed. They did sign MVS, but we all know he can't catch a cold. So Chris Olave, someone I'm looking to go ahead and target and buy low on. I'm not, spinning the world. I'm not trading BTJ or someone like that for him. But if I can put a little package together for him, maybe a Juwan Jennings, and something else, Chuba Hubbard, with maybe Brooks coming back and Bryce Young coming back. If I could turn Chuba into Chris Olave, I would. At this point, something along those lines is what I'd be looking to do. So Chris Olave, whether it's even Rattler or Carr coming back, I think, he should see 10, 12 targets a game. It would be a detriment if he doesn't. And again, they're saying there's a chance that Spencer might continue to start even if Carr is healthy. And we heard him say, he knows his job is to get Olave the ball. So I love hearing stuff like that. Someone I'm looking to target. Another guy is going to be an injured guy. Again, I don't know how some people have different feelings about trading for injured players. But Mike Evans, man, if I can trade for him, he's going to be out, until week 12. But when he comes back, he has a great schedule. Obviously, no Chris Godwin there, kind of similar situation with Olave not having Rashid Shaheed there anymore, the number 2 target. So it's pretty much going to be the Mike Evans show. We all know he wants to hit that 1,000 yards in a season as well, too, to keep that consecutive streak going. So I think he can get fed targets. And, of course, I'm sure, especially depending on how these next couple of weeks go, if Baker can't trust any of these other guys, again, he's going to see 12 to 15 targets. He'll get Malik Neighbors type target share, down the stretch when you really need him. Weeks 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So he is at Giants week 12 when he comes back, at Panthers, at Raiders, 3 of the easiest matchups. Then at Chargers, a little tough. Then he gets at Dallas, might have the shadow there. And then week 17 championship game against the Panthers again. So if I can go buy low on Mike Evans right now, they might already be a contender, so maybe they're able to hold him. But if I can go buy low on Mike Evans right now, I'm absolutely trying to take advantage of that. So Mike Evans, one of my buy low targets. A couple honorable mentions here. I won't go into full details, but just some names. I'll be looking to potentially acquire. Nico Collins, a couple weeks away still on IR. If you can go get him, maybe there's opportunity there. Marvin Harrison Jr., a couple disappointing games here. Kyler Murray hasn't looked great. It's just a buy low opportunity. It is a risk, but we've seen the pedigree. We know the draft, background that he has, obviously with his dad and all this kind of stuff. So it's all kind of there. We just need to see it, explode. And who knows? Maybe it could be like Christian Watson in the back half. Amon-Ra St. Brown, OBJ. A lot of times these rookies, you kind of see some flashes here and there. And we've definitely seen the flashes of what he could be. But still needs to develop, as a professional. And if he can get it all together and have a strong back half of the season, I'm going to continue to have him here as a buy low until that window closes. And so you guys have heard us, say it here for weeks. Go get Tyreek Hill, go get Jalen Waddle, because Tua, could come back or may come back. And when he comes back, as soon as we hear he's coming back, that window is going to slam shut. So you got to take some risk sometimes. So sometimes you just kind of got to go out on a limb. It may backfire, but nothing's guaranteed. But if I can, have that type of upside, I'm looking forward to it. So they get, the Dolphins this week 8. Speaking of the Dolphins, a couple tough matchups against the Bears and Jets. Then they get a bye week. And this is Arizona. Then they get Seattle, which is a nice matchup. Minnesota is going to be nice. Seattle again. And then playoff schedule is home against the Patriots, at the Carolina Panthers, and in a dome back at LA against the Rams. So I really like that playoff schedule, because you get New England at home in a dome. You go to Carolina, which worst case it's usually just raining there, usually not snow or too windy, but you never know. And then, again, back at a controlled climate in LA for your championship game. So I like that schedule, and hopefully by then he's firing all cylinders and, could turn out to be a, second round or back in first round pick for a redraft next year. So Marvin Harrison Jr., a couple other, I know I said I wasn't going to go into too much detail, but MHJ, I don't know if I'm just so invested in him and I want to see it happen. But I had to go off on that little tangent. A couple other names. I promise not to go into full details. Brian Robinson Jr., go take a look at the numbers. Rashad White, he could be buy or sell depending on what you're looking for. And then someone like Zay Flowers coming off, that tough game, dealing with a little ankle injury. Maybe you have an opportunity to buy low there. So yeah. So those are my top trade targets. If you have any questions about those, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, we will go ahead and get into my buy low targets. Or I'm sorry, sell high. There we go. We already did buy low. All right. So Rasta is a top 3 players to sell high. So if I'm looking to sell somebody right now, again, I'll start with the guy on the thumbnail, DeAndre Hopkins. Talked about it. His hype has happened so much now. He's dealing with that knee injury coming in. Hasn't played a full lot of the snaps, but when he's been out there, he's been commanding targets. So you can use all this in your trade negotiation. Obviously going to be going to Patrick Mahomes and attached to him. You can reference, the difference between, Cooper going, over to Buffalo now with Josh Allen. And you just have an opportunity, because if he comes out and puts up a dud and Patrick Mahomes still isn't putting up, fantasy numbers, and, they still continue to just run the ball, when they get, towards the red zone, or if the looks, by having Hopkins there, he's able to throw it deep to Worthy. Hopkins may not have the value there, or he may be a little washed because he is older. Maybe he's lost a step. I don't know. These are all unknowns, but I just know there's hype built around it right now after this trade. So if you can capitalize on that, then I would absolutely look to do so. He's probably been a piece sitting on your bench. Maybe a lot of guys were able to pick him up after free agency. It sucks when a trade like this happens after waivers have run, because unless you were there right when the news broke, you weren't able to go just pick him up off waivers. So yeah, if he's there, I'm putting him on the trade block. I'm seeing what kind of offers you can put together. Obviously, you have to package him with somebody, but maybe you can put Hopkins out there and maybe trade him straight up for someone like Zay Flowers, or Hopkins and someone else for, Marvin Harrison Jr. Or again, Devontae Smith, go after some of these guys that I mentioned as buys, with Hopkins and another piece. So that's what I'd be looking to accomplish there. And I kind of package these guys kind of together, Bucky Irving and Tank Bigsby, right? So these are these backup running backs that have come in, due to opportunity and produced pretty well. But we don't know exactly what their usage is going to be once the number one kind of returns. We saw, Bucky still kind of have that rushing role, but especially in PPR, more so PPR than standard, or even half. But we still see Rashad Wright's going to see 5 to 7 type targets, especially with no Godwin now. Again, I'm not saying that Bucky Irving is a better, or not a better rusher than Rashad White, because we all know Rashad's numbers on the ground aren't great, but where Rashad White wins you weeks and wins you games and puts up points is in the passing game. And in full PPR, that's what we're looking for. These guys can be just, RB2s, especially in hero RB type builds. So, if you've had some injuries and you need to plug a guy in, again, given the situation, the opportunity, I wouldn't mind that. And I think, it looks like, it's going to be somewhat of a 3-headed monster there. So I'd rather prefer the guy who's getting the passing work, over the guy getting the rushing work. But there's a lot of hype and a lot of, saying, oh, he's going to take over the backfield and potentially be the workhorse. But there's really no true workhorses really out there. Saquon, a couple others, those are those high echelon type guys. But for the most part, every other backfield is going to be somewhat of a split. So if you can turn Bucky into, one of those upper echelon guys, put Hopkins and Bucky together, maybe 2 guys you had on your bench to turn that into a starter like Collins and Devontae Smith, or, again, even Brian Robinson Jr. I would, put together a package for something like that. So yeah. Bucky and Tank Bigsby. So I'm going to use my thing where I kind of get 2 for 1 there, just to be able to mention a couple extra names. And the other person I'm going to go with here is going to be James Cook. So I have him as a sell high. James Cook, it was crazy not seeing him have a target. I don't know what exactly that, had to do with per se. But he's been sitting pretty nice, overall, sitting as the PPR, the RB14. Again, with all the injuries right there, you're not just giving Cook away. But I'd be definitely looking to kind of shop him. It's interesting to see what they're doing in that backfield with the split. He's never really had a ton of snaps anyway. The most he's had is 61% of the snaps, and that was week 1. But other than that, it's been basically right around 50%. He kind of hit about 59% against Houston. But other than that, it's basically at 50%. He's only had 2 games with close to 20 carries. And, he still scored on the ground, which was interesting. His role's kind of changing, like who knows what's going on. But all 3 running backs there in Buffalo scored. You had Ty Johnson score a receiving touchdown, 1 catch, 1 for 4 yards and a touchdown, I believe it was. You had Ray Davis. Even I think he had like two or 3 targets, actually. Let me see. I wish I just knew this stuff off the top of my head. It was 1 catch for 6 yards. But again, James Cook didn't even command a target. They didn't even design a pass to him. So that's what worries me a little bit. Again, you're kind of saved by that rushing touchdown, but Ray Davis and Ty Johnson don't look like they're going away. So maybe they're trying to keep James Cook fresh. He's not the type of back that can just be, ran in between the tackles, so to speak, all the time. So maybe they're just kind of doing that sorry, I had to make sure I didn't miss any super chats here. Make sure we have them. What was I saying? So Ray Davis is not that threw me all the way off. I panicked when I saw how many comments came in because last time we missed that super chat. But basically just it's kind of a 3-headed backfield there now. So if you can still sell Cook on his past performance, again, you're not giving him away, but I don't think Ray Davis is going anywhere. They still seem comfortable, getting Ty Johnson in there too. And obviously Josh Allen, has no problem throwing it to them. They both scored receiving touchdowns as well too. So if I can move off of James Cook, I'd look to do it if you can. And he is still kind of dealing with that toe injury, which could flare up, at any time as well too. If I can put a package together and trade up, I'd be looking to do that. Or, me personally, but full disclosure, I'm a big Brian Robinson Jr. fan, but I would just personally trade James Cook for Brian Robinson Jr. just straight up myself. But again, full disclosure there. That might not be the market. That's just in Rasta's head. That's just in Rasta's head. They're not too far off. Brian Robinson's at RB 17. but he has missed a game. So there we go. All right, so let's move on here. So we had Bucky and Bigsby, who I had as one. We had DeAndre Hopkins, who I had as my other sell, and James Cook. A couple other names. I won't go into full detail about him, but Javonte Williams, someone I'd be looking at, does get Carolina this week. I actually was able to pick him up off the waiver wire after that big game last week against the Saints. I need to spot start him here this week, but if I can sell him, I would definitely entertain it. But obviously, if he was on the wire in my league for like 2 or 3 weeks, no one was, he's not going to be real interesting to anyone else. But in some of the other leagues, if a couple teams have been beat up at that running back position, maybe you could put a package together. You also have Kareem Hunt, who I think is a nice sell high opportunity right now. Again, you're not just giving him away. Not even so much I'm worried about Pacheco coming back. I just don't know how long it's sustainable for running back his age to be getting, what is he, like 27 or 26 carries or something outrageous like that. And he hasn't really been too efficient just overall anyway, ever since he kind of left the Chiefs. Had a couple kind of good, spurts here and there with Cleveland, and then obviously they didn't bring him back, and came back last year. Then they didn't bring him back again, even though Nick Chubb wasn't coming, and destroyed his knee. So just a lot of that, they saw this guy day in and day out. Obviously, the Chiefs are in a certain situation with Pacheco. They needed somebody in the middle of the season who kind of knew the playbook, knew how to get to work, knew the building, knew the people, so to speak. Obviously far removed from the incident that cost him from being there. And this team could have even been, a little better. But yeah, 27, 22 carries, has 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Gets Las Vegas this week, so he should have a smash spot this week. And again, I'm not saying that he's not going to do good. I'm just worried about him holding up. So if I can trade him and turn him into, again, someone like maybe Jonathan Taylor, who, again, maybe that window's closed. But again, someone like that, or maybe trade for, one of these wide receivers I mentioned earlier, Devontae Smith for Kareem Hunt, someone you picked up off the waiver wire to get like a 3rd round, 4th round pick, and Devontae Smith. I would absolutely do something like that. So yeah, I'll leave it there. J.K. Dobbins, Mark Andrews, a couple other names. But there we go. All right. So that wraps up my sell high, and I won't go into the buy, sell, hold. We'll just get your guys' questions ready at that hour mark, and we'll call it a night. So let me go back and find out where I left off. I think it was here with D-Man as the winner. Or no, we took Travis's question here. So we got Raven saying, what's the deal? I don't know what that was. He and I made a deal today. So shout out to the Got Left Out Listener League. I'm in last place over there. He's in first, 7-0. So good job, Ravens. We pulled off a trade. What was the trade? I think I got Dowdle, Watson, and somebody else for Darnell Mooney and Christian Kirk. So yeah, I think it was something like that. But yeah, so appreciate the negotiation on that. That was fun. My team's terrible over there. Maybe this helps me make a run for 6th place and make some noise in the playoffs. We'll see. Let's see. He said, I can't wait to put Puka back in my lineup. It's the last Infinity Stone to his 6-1 team. So yeah, Puka coming back here potentially. Try to trade him maybe if you can. Let's see. So we got Perry in the house. What's up, Perry, man? Good to see you. And again, we are in the live Q&A section. So you guys go ahead and drop any other questions you have. I'll take the questions until they kind of run out, or I get way too tired, or whatever the case may be. But you guys know I have like a problem leaving the chat without answering all the questions, because that's what we're here for, man. We're here for you guys. So I want to have that discussion with you. So let's get to it. So what were we saying? Perry, he says, hear me out. I'm not saying he's going to get locked up, but would you trade Chase for another stud, given how bad his playoff schedule is, weeks 15, 16, and 17? So I assume this is Jamar Chase or Chase Brown. Either way, they both play for the Bengals. So let's go check it out here. So Jamar Chase, weeks 15, 16, 17, gets at Tennessee. So that's a little L'Jarius Sneed action. You get home against Cleveland. with who was that? Ward and Newsom over there. And then you get Denver against Patty Surtain. Oh, yeah, that is tough, man. That is really, really tough. Yeah, I'm not saying he's getting locked up either. Hopefully, but the way Higgins is playing, if it's not open, I don't think Joe Burrow is going to force it. Those games might be really important when it comes down to it. But, I mean, this guy's a stud for a reason. Like, these guys are usually matchup proof, usually, you know, DB on a similar type level in their field versus a guy who's, you know, kind of top 2 or 3 at his position. I think those guys worry about him more than he worries about them, if that makes sense. So I think Chase isn't as worried. And I don't think Burrow lacks the confidence to challenge a L'Jarius Sneed or a Pat Surtain. And then even right before that in week 14, he gets Dallas with Diggs. And then before that, he just gets the overall defense in Pittsburgh, which it's almost TJ Watt, who can just wreck that entire team and just get to Burrow before he can even get the ball down the field to Chase. So, yeah, it's tough, man. But, you know, when I look back, man, you see Baltimore 41 points, you know, 30-point game against Washington. You know, I got off to a slow start, you know, 5 catches and still able to turn that into, you know, double-digit points. I mean, every time this guy steps on the field, besides against Kansas City week 2 when they were still trying to figure everything out, like he's put up double-digit points. So I'm not shying away from it. And again, this was Cleveland that he just played 5 for 6 for 55 and a touchdown, and he gets them week 16. So, yeah, I can't say Sneed and Surtain totally scare me. And you would just hope, what's his name, can design him open, maybe put him in the slot, do some creative stuff, get him in motion to be able to beat that coverage. You know, he's an alpha. So, yeah, but that's interesting. And I have a lot of Chase and Burrow. So I'll be riding it out. I'm not looking to trade him. So there we go. Let's see. Cole's in here saying Vikings -3 over 48. And Vikings went on the same parlay. $100 pays just over 300. So there you go. And yeah, we have prop bets and stuff like that on the live show tomorrow with Phil over at the Extra Point. So Cole, make sure you go check that show out. I'm sure you'll love it with Phil over here at the Extra Point. His links down in the description. So make sure you go check that out for sure. All right. So where else were we at here? Raven said Mahomes could never realistically be the GOAT, in his opinion. And he said, and he's and I'm being unbiased on that take. So who's your GOAT, Ravens? Who's your GOAT? Is it Brady? Mine's Montana. Well, mine's Jerry Rice. Like, he is the GOAT. Like, it's literally his name, like, on Twitter. So to me, Jerry Rice will, like, when I hear the GOAT, like, that's the first name that pops in my head. Just any sport, just in general, you'd be like, oh, who's the GOAT? I'm like, Jerry Rice. But again, full disclosure, big time Niners fan. So let me know who you got as your GOAT. It might be in here already. All right. We already talked about Scott, about the Lions receivers and the Williamson suspension. Dylan, what's up, Dylan? Good to see you, man. I think don't you owe me some dues in the league here, man? Let me know. Let me know if you got that going on. But he says, man, I got to make an ugly trade. He says, I'm receiving Reed, Olave, and Bucky, but I need to give up one of Bijan, Ken Walker, or Kyron. He's thinking Bijan. It's a nice package for one of those 3 guys. I don't know if I can get rid of Bijan. Definitely not Ken Walker. And I don't think I can get rid of Bijan, man. I haven't been the greatest Kyron fan, so I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure he's been doing pretty well. I know he's fantasy points per game. He is number 6. Ken Walker's number 2. Bijan's technically number 11. So you have 3 first-round guys. Man, if I'm giving up Bijan or Kyron or Ken Walker, I don't know. Like, yeah, you're getting the quantity in Reed, Olave, and Bucky, but I don't know if you're getting the quality. Like, for me, yeah, like you said, it is pretty ugly, man, because I I like if I'm giving up a top 12 running back like that, especially with all the injuries, man, I want like a top 12 receiver at least in return, or someone who has potential to get there. Like, yeah, Reed, has had a couple games, but he's up and down in that four-headed wide receiver room over there. As much as I said I like Olave, going to get him, there still is some drawback on that. Like, I'd much rather just kind of flex or have Bijan there to make up for that. Or I just need a way better running back than Bucky. Like, give me David Montgomery and like T. Higgins for Bijan. Like, it'd have to be something kind of along those lines. Doing this waiver wire guy, Chris Olave and Jalen Reed, I don't know if that's enough, man, for me to get off one of those running backs. I'm sure someone who has a better situation like that and a better running back and wide receiver you can get a 2-for-1. There has to be someone there that'd be willing to take one of those guys if they knew they were on the market, man. So I'd continue to shop that and see what you can do. But sometimes the only trade you can get is the one that you can get. So if you're really hurting, which I know there's been a lot of wide receiver injuries right now, if you need to get a package like that, it's not terrible. But there's not even like one solid, consistent guy that you're just like, all right, like Reed is the closest thing. But, even Olave, I just like more as a wide receiver 2 or 3. Bucky's borderline not startable in PPR leagues. So, yeah, it has me a little worried, Dylan. So let me know if there's any other options, man. You know how to hit me up directly, and we could chat about it. All right, so got recent here. And again, if you guys are watching here, if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, man. It only takes a second. Helps us out a lot. We're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers. We're just over 1.3 right now. I think we're at like 13, 18 or something like that. So hopefully there's at least 2 of you out there to get us over that 13, 20 mark. So yeah, I appreciate all the support, you guys. Let's keep it rolling. So we have recent here saying McMillan, Mooney, Lockett, or Shakir for the flex. It's a hard choice. What do you think? So I think it's default Mooney. Now, if DK ends up not playing, Lockett's interesting. Shakir is a fine flex most of the time, but you have some depth. McMillan, I'm sitting. I want to see what happens here after a week of game planning. And, with Baker, I just want to see it all come together first. You have plenty of better options there. So, again, if DK's playing, I would have it ranked Mooney, Shakir, Lockett, and then McMillan. If DK's out, then I still have Mooney, but it's a lot closer. And then Lockett, and then a little gap, Shakir and McMillan. So, yeah, so good luck. Come back with us on Friday. We do start sit on Friday. Once we have all the injury information, everything like that, just come back, ask the question again, and may have a different answer. And there'll be 4 of us total. So we can give you a ton of different takes. If you want to ask it on the early show, come back and ask me and Phil on the later show, and we'll get you dialed in. But appreciate you coming out. Steve's asking Chubb for McMillan in PPR. I think Chubb still has a little more name value than McMillan, who was just picked up like this week off the waiver wire for Chubb, who you've been, holding this entire time. Like, I want the Chubb side. So whether you're, trading away or receiving, I want the Chubb side. So obviously, if you have McMillan and you just picked him up and you're able to turn him into Chubb, then fantastic. But if someone's offering you McMillan for Chubb, I'm hitting the Heisman on him real quick. And not enough for me at that point. I'd rather write it out and see what you get with Chubb. So appreciate you asking. Again, hopefully you're hitting that like and subscribe button for me, Steve. And we'll go from there. All right, so Scott White, Khalif Raymond has outplayed Tim Patrick the past 2 weeks. So I think he might have been responding to the what's up with the Lions wide receivers there. And yeah, that has been kind of interesting. So good to see Tim Patrick, man. He had a tough go there. So good to see him a little bit relevant here again. Steve asked Dak and McConkey or CMC and Stafford in full PPR. Man, as a Niners fan, it's hard to say because, of course, I mean, any other time it's an easy CMC. I just don't know if he's going to come back and be that guy. Obviously, with Ayuk out, it makes it a little interesting. Maybe they use him more as like a scat back and, especially in full PPR. could be worth the risk. And again, Dak could just get on a heater like he did about this time last year. Again, I hope it's after this Niners game. It was after the Niners game last time, so maybe he does it again after playing the Niners. We would kind of light a fire in him. I could see that. I know our boy Tycoon likes McConkey if he's in the chat. Also a fellow Niner fan, so I'd love to get his thought on that. Gun to my head, my initial thought was just go with the safe play and go Dak and McConkey. If you want to take a risk on CMC, because again, he could be a potential league winner for you, or he could just come back and just be like a random RB2 that you may already have on your team. I do like Dak over Stafford, but with Stafford getting Puka and Cup back here fairly soon for the long run, rest of season, if you want to go that route, I don't hate it. So remember, Dak only has really CD to throw to. And, Jalen Tolbert's kind of emerging a little bit. Ferguson, pretty much the number 2 guy there. But, that's so tough, man. That's a really, really tough one, Steve. If you're risky, I say go CMC and Stafford. If you want a little more kind of safer play, kind of know what you're going to get, so to speak, with a little bit, potential upside there with McConkey, as it looks like they're starting to throw the ball more there in LA. I can see that Dak and McConkey side just being a little safer. I think the classic Mike, answer would be Dak and McConkey. And if I was here with him, if he said that, I'd probably say, yeah, give me the risk with CMC and Stafford. If you're not first, you're last. So again, just depends on your style of play. What else you have is depth, and you just have to understand the floor with CMC is, he's still out or he comes back and gets hurt right away. Again, anyone can get hurt on any play at practice or a game, but just the percentage chances of re-injury might be a little more heightened given his tendonitis or Achilles tendonitis or whatever it's called that he's dealing with. Scott White says, wondering if I should trade Juju now with Hopkins going to Kansas City. With him being hurt with a hamstring and being out a couple weeks, I mean, if you can absolutely trade him, I would. Obviously, it'd have to probably be part of a package. But really, he could just be kind of the number 2 over there, and maybe Hopkins kind of opens things up, for both of them. I don't think Juju's going to be a guy we, picked him up off waivers to be, unfortunately. So hopefully people didn't completely unload their fab budgets on Juju, because we didn't even get him for a game. Like, the worst thing happened, he played and got hurt and got you a 0. So, I mean, if you can, just kind of include him in a trade, so to speak, so he's just not there in your lineup. I don't mind throwing him in as an extra piece, but I don't know who would pay really anything for Juju. Like, honestly, if Juju is on a waiver wire right now, I'm not even touching him. So I don't know what you'd get. But again, your league better than me. But definitely do it if you can. Yeah, see, and then right below it, Raven said he's about to drop Juju. And if he dropped him, I'm not even picking him up. So, so there we go. Let's see. Ooh, good question here. We got Travis Brennan in here asking, Brian Thomas or MHJ rest of season? I kind of have to answer this almost like the other question. Like, if you want some risk, you can go with MHJ of what that potential could be. But based on what we've seen so far, given the situation, given the quarterback play and, his involvement in the offense and the opportunity, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. seems like just a nice, safe weekly play at this point. Seems to just be getting better and better every week, making big plays, making short catches. I mean, seems like he's running a full route tree for the most part. I like what I've seen so far. And honestly, right now, I would probably, if we were drafting, with what we knew now with rookie drafts, I still think I'm taking MHJ first. I still think I'm taking Neighbors probably second. But I think Brian Thomas Jr. will go ahead of Rome Odunze if we had a snapshot into kind of where they'd be at week 8 right now. And I wouldn't even blame people of putting Brian Thomas ahead of MHJ. Might go Neighbors, MHJ, or Neighbors, Brian Thomas, MHJ, and then Odunze, at this point, if we were redrafting those top 4. So I'd like to know. Let me know what you guys think. If we were redrafting today, those 4 rookies, like a rookie dynasty league, how do you rank those 4 rookies against one another? I'd like to hear. Ooh, this one I wish I had someone on the show because I'd like to have that conversation. Great question, Travis. All right. Nahal China says he has to sit to Debo, T, BTJ, Cup, in half PPR. So I'm sitting Debo easily coming off that, illness, pneumonia-like, and being hospitalized. I don't think they should even play him, even if he's quote unquote okay to go. Like, I think they should just give him a week. Again, full disclosure as a Niners fan, but I know we need wins now. Have to sit to Debo, so that's the easy one. I mean, I can't I want to say sit Cup just because we don't know how he's going to be when he comes back this game. I feel totally confident with T. Higgins and Brian Thomas Jr. Let me just double check the schedule here this week. So week 8. Find out who they're playing again here really quick. All right, so week 8 we have Bengals against the Eagles. That secondary has been getting torched for the most part. So yeah, Higgins, I'm firing him up all day. And Brian Thomas, Jacksonville against Green Bay. Same thing, should be a shootout on both sides. Both offenses can score. Should be some good points. Let me go over here, check out the over-under on these two games as well too. So we have Packers Jags with a opened at 51 points, now sitting at 49, one of the higher ones this week. Green Bay is favored by 4, so that means Jags expected to be, playing from behind. So should be positive game script for BTJ. So I got to get him in there. And then we have, what was it? The Bengals, and they are at Eagles with a 48-point over-under. So yeah, I definitely want to get in there in that game. I mean, again, the Rams have that same over-under, but from the Minnesota side, so they could be trailing. I don't know how many snaps Cups, is going to play. If it's a full complement in his first game back, that's the only thing that kind of worries me. Half PPR, Stafford does have trouble kind of throwing touchdowns. You kind of want to lean to more of the touchdown guys, which T. Higgins, BTJ have been scoring plenty of touchdowns. So I think I'm going to sit Debo and Cup, and I'm going to start T and Brian Thomas Jr. So there we go. Raven said, "Oh, it was me. He traded Dowdle to Rasta." So there we go. Good stuff. All right. So Travis said, well, I'm only like an hour behind on chats, but we'll get through this. This chat came in at 10:08 and we're at 10:57, so I'll try to hurry up. Travis says, just traded Daniels for Hurts. Was it a good move? Daniels hasn't had his bye yet, and he might miss another game. Hurts is past his bye week. So if you're looking at it there, I think it is. I think Daniels can reach heights that we've seen Hurts hit, and obviously with that tush push, they're still doing it. They're still going to give him those touchdowns. Barkley's still going to eat, as well. He's not kind of like that top 3 type guy, so to speak. I mean, he's sitting at QB 9 right now. I want to say Jaden Daniels was, I think, like QB 5. This is he's QB 3. So, I mean, I would have liked to have gotten something else maybe with Hurts, but I can understand how you're saying if you really needed to win this week, and Daniels may sit, a week, maybe 2, with this rib injury. It wasn't that bad of a downgrade, so to speak, to get those 2 extra games. So I think you're pretty safe. I think you're pretty safe with Hurts. He's had a couple bad games, but that was the New Orleans game where he didn't have, AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. They're both healthy now. Again, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, at Dallas, gets that shootout with Washington in week 11. Rams shootout with Baltimore. They put up some just crazy fantasy games. Anyone kind of going up against Baltimore lately? Then he gets Carolina, Pittsburgh, Washington, Dallas. Fairly decent playoff schedule. That Pittsburgh is a little tough, but they have a good line. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I don't want to say it was like, oh, you got over on him or anything like that. But I like the thought process. You thought it out well. And again, barring injury, you have your quarterback for the rest of the year. you don't got anything to worry about. So just tell them to keep putting up points. So there we go. I appreciate it, or Tavis. There's no R there. So Tavis Brennan. So I apologize for that. And again, hopefully you guys are hitting that like and subscribe button for me here. If you're already subscribed, hit that like button, helps out just as much. And yeah, feel free to send a super chat if you'd like as well too. We have those going on. Otherwise, we'll continue to get to these questions. 2D's Nuts says I was offered Chase Brown for Hopkins, but I don't know if that's a good trade. Or Johnson, who I heard is going to Vegas. I think I can trade either to my brother. Nice. Family trades are good. Who's hurting bad for a wide receiver. I like Chase Brown for Hopkins. I don't mind that trade at all. Deontay, I'm not the biggest fan for, or biggest fan of, especially if he goes to Vegas, then that turns me off even more. Like you're going from the worst offense to the second worst offense. So, I mean, yeah, technically it's an upgrade, but, I don't know if it really is. So I think Andy Dalton's the best quarterback out of the 4 quarterbacks involved in all those teams that have all played a game this year. I'm trying to stay away from all that. So, I mean, if I could trade Johnson for Chase Brown, I don't know if that's an option. I would do that first and then maybe see if you can still get Hopkins, in a different deal. But I'd look to get off of Johnson immediately if you can. And then, plus he was saying a bunch of stuff. He's not happy with the offense. Like you said, it looks like he might be out of town and we're at his welcome over there in Carolina. So yeah. If you can move off him, for sure I would. If I'm reading that question wrong, I apologize. But yeah, if you can trade Johnson for Brown, do it. Hopkins for Brown, I don't hate it either, especially if you need a running back. So I like Chase Brown. All right. Scott said Debo and Cup both had recent health issues. I think he was talking about the question up above. Let's see. Nick Chip or Tony Pollard this week for week 8. I'm probably going to go Pollard just off the top of my head. Let me check schedule here. Titans against Detroit. No Hutchinson. Lost their other tackle. Cleveland against the Ravens and that defense. Yeah, I'll take my chances with the banged up Lions defense right now. And give me Tony Pollard. Again, not coming off a serious injury. Maybe Spears is coming back, but it's still his backfield right now. So I'll take Pollard. I'll have Pollard ranked higher than Chubb this week. Izzy asking Bills or Cowboys defense this week. So you got Bills going up against the Seattle Seahawks. If they don't have DK, I kind of like their defense. Then you got Dallas Cowboys go up against my Niners. They're banged up right now. No CMC, no Ayuk, potentially no Debo. George Kittle's dealing with a foot injury. Like we have Jordan Mason and Brock Purdy and myself. Like they might call me and Phil and Tycoon out there to run 3 wide receiver sets and 11 personnel. So just the Cowboys defense hasn't been great. I mean, I know you're a Cowboys fan. Micah Parsons, he was doing some work off the side with the rehab group today. So we'll see how, if he's back in the lineup, that, could potentially work. But I mean, they'll probably move him around, not have him go up against Trent. But our line's still pretty decent. Purdy doesn't take too many sacks. Like they may get a couple sacks. He may throw some picks, which we saw him throw, I think, 3 picks last game. So there could be that there for the Cowboys, but I would hope they're dialed in for this Cowboys week. And I personally can't tell you to start a defense, especially Cowboys defense against my Niners. So I'm going to say, go ahead and go Bills defense against the Seahawks if there's no DK. But other than that, there has to be some other. Go look and see if the Chicago got dropped. They're playing the Commanders most likely without Jaden Daniels. So if I can get the Bears defense, I would. We kind of talked about a couple other defenses at the top of the show as well too. If you still were listening, I know this was a little while ago when you dropped this question, but yeah, definitely a couple other places I'd like to go. I'm sure Broncos are taken. A couple of places I'd like to go. Lions defense against the Titans might be good. So check that out. It's all right. All right. Appreciate it. Again, appreciate the super chat earlier. 2D's Nut says, who do you think will be better rest of season? Hopkins or John? Oh, and is this AJ's friend Izzy, man? Let me know if this is Izzy. Gave a shout out a couple weeks ago, man. I think it is. I can't see the players in the picture there, but that might be him. He said you had a weird name on YouTube, but maybe you changed it to drop something in here. So if that is you, what's up, man? Appreciate you supporting the show and coming out here, man. And you definitely didn't have to send me a super chat, my guy. Come over to my house. You can ask me a question anytime. Just let me know. All right. Who else we got here? Scott White says, "Oh, Myers, the kicker in Seattle. Thank you. That was bugging me. So I really appreciate that, Scott. I don't know why I didn't know that. I think I'm having Scott Fishbowl and everything." Scott White says, "I picked up Sterling Shepard just before the start of that game. Ooh, nice pick. Beat the waiver wire there. That's why if you have an open spot or you can put someone who's out in your IR spot, make sure you go, drop them. Just pick someone up. Like you never know who might get hurt or something like that. So just don't go into a week with an empty roster spot. Put someone in there so that even when, you have to drop someone later, but you can always, always just go after some backup running back or, I prefer to get an extra backup running back because they're more likely to get hurt. But the way things have been going with wide receiver, it's just usually the replacement wide receiver is usually nowhere near as good as the person they're kind of filling in for, whereas the running backs aren't that different because they'll also get a lot of opportunities to score and have those touches. So has a lot more to do with the line versus separation and get real nerdy with those kind of stats. But yeah, just efficiency metrics. Anyway, talk to the guys over at Fantasy Football Tavern and the extra point to get into all the nerdy stat stuff. I mean, I know it, just not our flavor of the show. But a lot of our takes are based on all the stats, of course, too. But I'm not here just to read off PFF stats to you. So we're all good. All right. Adam Barnes says, "I have Waddle, Reed, Cooper, and BTJ. Who should I start in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, full PPR league?" So start 3 out of these guys. So BTJ for sure. We get Bills going up against the Seahawks. I think Reek is going to be back. Reek Woolen might be back. So might be a little tough matchup there. But, with Josh Allen and Cooper, I think that's pretty safe. And then I'm probably going to go Reed in that Green Bay Packers and Jacksonville game, coming off a little bit of a down game. But we've seen, what he can do. So I'd probably just sit Waddle. Tua might be back, but, maybe just see it for a week, see what happens. BTJ and Reed are for sure 2, and then maybe just choose between Waddle and Cooper. Obviously, if no Tua, it's an easy Waddle sit, throw Cooper in there. But yeah, I kind of sat Cooper last week. Right process, only played like 18 snaps, but in those 18 snaps, he had like a better game than more than half the league. So that can happen. Target per route run rate was outrageous in that game. So one of the highest ever. All right. Gilbert in the house. What's up, Gilbert? Says, "Hey, bro, I love the content. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Love you asking a question, man. Appreciate it." Says, "Got offered Saquon Barkley." Ooh, I'm saying pretty much almost take it right away. For Jonathan Taylor, MHJ, and Tucker Kraft. He's 2-5, and he has Collins in the IR. So got offered Saquon Barkley for Jonathan Taylor, MHJ, and Tucker Kraft. At 2-5, I don't know if you can really tier up like this. If it was like the other way around and you're getting that package and you're 2-5 and you need the wide receiver, then I can understand it. But that's a little too much for me to have to give up. Like there's nobody else he can give you back on his team if he's taking on 3 players for 1. Like he's going to have to drop 2 anyway. So there's not one of those players you can maybe get and let him only have to drop 1 player to give you all, if you're giving up all 3 of those. I mean, JT and MHJ for Barkley isn't that bad, but again, at 2-5, you kind of need to win now. I mean, Barkley's going to put points in your lineup. JT, should be back this week. Again, MHJ was one of my buys. I still think there's an opportunity for him, but can you wait that long at 2-5? I don't know. So I want does he have any other wide receiver you can get that's going to put up points like right now in order for you to wait for Collins to come back? I'm not taking Juju. I'm not taking McMillan. I'm not taking Juwan Jennings. I'm not taking Ricky Pearsall or, anyone like that. like at least someone like, I don't even want to, but like Michael Pittman, like don't even actually, no, I didn't say that, but like it has to be somebody, like somebody on his team that he can give you that may put up some points at the wide receiver position. So let me know there. I just think that's a little too much at 2 and 5 to acquire Barkley, because but like I could easily see how Barkley can almost outscore both of them, in a week. But if JT gets back to what he was, he shouldn't be too far off of Saquon. So there we go. All right. We have, hope that helps. And if you're still watching, hopefully you can answer some of that, and I'll get to it a little later, getting a little more caught up. So just food for thought. Demario Douglas is the play this week. He has around 40.5% target share when sharing the field with Drake May. Demario Douglas, I picked up in several places last week. I actually started him over Amari Cooper in a couple places. It actually cost me a win. But that was because they didn't disclose that he was dealing with an injury heading into the game. Had I known that, I'm on West Coast. It was real early in the morning, but I was up. I could have made that swap had I known he was sick and not going to be able to play his full complement of snaps. But I do like him. I actually dropped him in several places. I'm in best ball, and I actually have him and Drake May in a couple of my super flex teams that are in first and second place. I think I have that stack in a couple places. So definitely rooting for that to happen, Ricky 4. I'm right there with you. So I have myself a good part of the Demario Douglas stack. So yeah, I picked up on that last week. So yeah. He says, and we already saw the Pats take on the Jets once this season. Demario Douglas in that game, 38% target share, 58% receiving yardage share as well too. Yeah, no, I'm all for it. Then he says, on top of that, the Jets rank 4th in cover 1 and 6th in cover 4. Target per route run rate for Demario Douglas, 27% versus cover 1, 24% versus cover 4, 14% versus any other coverage type. So, yeah, no, I mean, I like it, man. I would definitely take all of that into consideration, chat, if you have the time to read it. So, yeah, no, if Demario Douglas is out there, he's definitely worth the roster spot at this point. So yeah, and Ricky 4, man. Hey, if you're interested in getting into this content game, let me know. Like I could use a writer for our website, getrighff.com. If you want to put some of these stats together, and maybe I can put a little segment out there, and you can give me some stats by Ricky every week. Maybe I can find a little segment for you to give you a little recognition out here and get the stats out to the people here at Get Right Fantasy, if that's what you're looking at. So my contact info is in the description. Let me know, and we'll see what we can do. That's how I brought all these other guys here on the channel, man. So let's get together. All right. So Scott says, I let Bigsby go early first few weeks when he wasn't doing much. Big regret as he got scooped up in a 16-team auction league. Oh, that's tough. Yeah, that's it happens though, man. It's tough. Says he did get May in one of his leagues. Pop Douglas was gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Board gets more targets in the future as well. Yeah, Douglas seems to be the clear-cut favorite for May now, at least, for sure. I'm not too big on Bourne. Jalen Polk dealing with concussion right now as well too. So I honestly think it's Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry are really the only two guys I'm looking to start. As well. Just the problem is the next couple games are brutal. We were talking about that on the Monday show. For waiver wires, we have, so they get New York Jets, Tennessee, Chicago are the next 3 games. But then it gets decent after that. They get Rams, Miami, Indy, a bye, come off the bye, playoff schedule. Week 15 at Arizona, week 16 at Buffalo, which could be that snow game that we all hate. And then it sucks that they get to play the Chargers week 17, but it's at home in New England. So I just worry about that week 15 and 16, especially after coming back from the desert a week before that to potentially play in desert, playing in the desert in a dome in Arizona to go back to New England for 2 weeks and play in the snow. A little tough. It's messed up. Schedule makers should have put that Charger game in in LA. That'd have been much better. All right. What else we got here? You guys were talking to each other. Oh, what's up? Ricardo Gutierrez. How's it going? Sounds like a new name. So hopefully you're still here watching with us. Hit that like and subscribe button for me, man. It says Olave or Addison. I don't know if it's I assume trade since it's a trade show. So if it's 1-for-1 straight up, you have the guy that's one of my top buy lows right now versus a guy I own in 16 out of like 18 leagues. If I had to choose between the two, I'd probably go Olave just because he is the number one over there with no Shaheed, no real tight end. Like Taysom Hill might come in there. You got Camaro who's going to get work in the passing game. But really he should be seeing, 10 to 15 targets a game. Realistically, 10 to 12 would be nice. Addison, he's going to have to be more efficient. Obviously playing opposite Justin Jefferson, he should get some good quality and efficient type targets. Targets seem to be good coming from Darnold. We just need to see him get, utilized a little more. I think Olave is a little safer. And he's more like a wide receiver 2-3, whereas Addison is more like a wide receiver 3 in a flex in a 3 wide receiver league. So kind of like wide receiver 3 or 4. But I kind of have him more as like a wide receiver 3 overall, top 36 type guy. 30 to 36 is kind of probably where I have him on any given week. So, he has a floor, but he also has a nice ceiling as well. And should anything happen, not wishing it, to Justin Jefferson, we've seen he can come in and play that number one role and did really well when Jefferson was out for 6 weeks last year. So that's what made me high on him coming into this year and why I have him in that many leagues. Because if you can show out like that when the defense is there to stop you, and not to mention he just completely destroyed my Niners. So that kind of stuff just lives with you and you go get that guy next year. Just kind of pass the eye test. So we'll get a cat in here. He's saying keep one rest of the season. Keenan Allen or Jawan Jennings. That's tough, man. Jennings has hit ceilings that Keenan hasn't. Keenan, they're done with their bye week. I think you have to go Allen on that one. But it's interesting. Bet you thought I was going to say Jennings with Ayuk out. I can see it, man. So it's really a tough call. If you kind of want the new flavor, want to kind of get something a little new, go Jennings. But again, he is dealing with that hip injury right now. Keenan Allen hopefully should be fully healthy coming off this bye. Kind of crowded there. Got DJ Moore. You got Odunze. You got Cole Kmet, who just kind of showed out. DeAndre Swift kind of doing his thing over there. Maybe I'm gonna lean more Jennings. Let me go Jennings. Presserton was dealing with the concussion. And but I think we're talking about like playoff schedules, so I assume him to be, fully healthy to go by week 17, I think is when Jamar Chase plays Surtain. I think that's what he was responding to. So there we go. Two of these nuts says I heard Garrett Wilson and Deontay Johnson are going to be traded before the deadline to teams like the Niners, the Chargers, the Bucks. As a Niners fan, I would welcome Garrett Wilson. I don't know if I don't want Deontay Johnson. Like maybe he'll be all right. I don't know. I just hadn't been feeling him since he was in Carolina. Maybe with the Niners and Purdy and Shanahan. We all know he gets open at one of the best, and Purdy's a nice anticipation thrower, so maybe that could work. But I would love a talent like Garrett Wilson, but I don't think they're going to bring someone like Garrett Wilson when they already just paid Ayuk, paid Debo. There's just no reason to bring him over for a 1-year rental when we're not like one piece away. So I don't really see that happening. Deontay possibly. Not sure his contract and stuff, but I don't know if he'd want to go there either, knowing they paid those receivers. So it might just be to kind of show out, and it's not like, oh, we're on the path to a Super Bowl again, like we were last year because of all the injuries. So I don't know. I don't know if the Niners make sense. I can see the Chargers or even the Bucks potentially making sense for maybe Deontay, but Bucks are kind of in the same situation. Evans just got, re-upped this last year. Godwin, I believe, is a free agent. So maybe it makes a little more sense there if they were to get Garrett or Deontay with Godwin being a free agent. So yeah, we'll see. We will see. Oh yeah, there we go. Raven said Sertan had a concussion, but he practiced full today, so he should be back this week. Yeah, that's what I see here too. Anish, how's it going? Do I start McMillan or Lockett this week? I think I'm Lockett, especially if DK's gone. I'm going to sit McMillan a week. It's nice to just hold him, stash him. But Lockett, it's been pretty startable every week that he's out there. And especially with no DK, he should have more opportunities there. So I think I lean Lockett either way there. We have Bullseye saying, who should I start, Sam Darnold or Kyler Murray? I think you got to go Darnold at this point, man. Better floor at this point. We've seen, we know what Kyler Murray is capable of, but, he's going to have up and down games. Kind of got to be willing to, have the bad with the good. But Sam Darnold's been producing fantasy points. Kevin O'Connell, they're going to throw the ball, one of the top offenses. And he's been doing it well. So, until I see otherwise, I'm going to have Darnold probably top 10 almost every week until something tells me not to. So, yeah, you're not wrong going with Darnold. Kyler's actually been sitting on our home league, 6 point per passing touchdown league. He's been sitting on the wire for 2 weeks. No one's touched him. So he's not a top 12 guy, at least right now. Sadly, I have him in several other places. Just hoping him and MHJ and McBride get their stuff together, start winning me some games. So we'll see. Scott says the Pats O-line is terrible. He likes Brissett, but at least May can move around a bit. Yeah, that's for sure. Extend some plays. Abraham Pena, what's up, Abraham? He says, should I buy low on Olave? He was one of my buy low targets, man. You might have asked this. Maybe you missed that segment. Maybe I was already doing Q&As by the time you jumped on. But if you do run back to Ross's top 3 buy low candidates, Olave was one of them. So I do like buying low on him. Just kind of rewind back and you'll have my whole take on that once we're done here. Raven says, I agree, Jerry Rice is the GOAT, but for QBs, it's Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. All right, I'll give it to you there. Dylan says, he said LMAO. Yes, I still owe the buy-in. I had to move back to Maine from New York, and it's gotten expensive. No, I get it, man. I understand. I just, it wasn't until I seen your name, I was like, oh, you haven't been active for a while. I remember you told me you were moving and stuff. You've still been checking in, seeing your lineups and stuff. So, like I said, I'm not totally sweating it. It's not even that much, but when you get a chance, just, throw it in there. We'll be good. Smokey the Cat says, any sport then for sure, the GOAT is Pele or Maradona. Yeah, you can kind of go that route. I know Pele's kind of been, if you want to go global, the biggest sport in the world. That's your GOAT. But yeah, as a Niners fan, man, it's Jerry Rice for me. Okay, they're talking to each other there. Oh, dang it. Smoking a cat. Okay, any sport, the GOAT is Maradona or Pele. Oh, appreciate it, man. See, this is why I freaked out if I missed the super chat, man. So I apologize for that. Appreciate the super chat, my guy. If I would have seen it earlier, I'm running solo tonight, so I don't have 17 eyes. But again, I really appreciate it, man. And I got you in the future, man. So I appreciate you taking care of us here, man, and supporting the channel. Always coming out, giving those eyes here too is even just as good as your cold hard cash. So we definitely appreciate both, but definitely appreciate you always coming out here for us, my guy. All right. So where do we leave off here? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Bullseye said, should I drop Jacoby Myers or Demario Douglas for Rashad White? I need someone long term. So for me, it's Myers for Rashad White. That's an easy one for me. Yeah, I would do that for sure. Yeah, he shouldn't be out on the waiver wire. I wish I would have got to that, almost an hour ago when you asked that. Go do it before anybody else grabs him. Coming off a 30-point game in full PPR. So yeah, I like White over Myers for sure. I don't want anything to do with the Raiders or Carolina offense at this point, fantasy wise. Let's see. Dylan said, as wide receivers were Rashee Rice, Godwin, and Ayuk. Ooh, all gone. RIP. Now his top two wide receivers are Deontay and Demario Douglas. Yeah, sometimes it's just not your year, my guy. Sometimes that just happens. Out of league, we're at Puka, Rashee Rice, Christian Watson, Nico Collins. Like at one point, all of them, you're either out or missed time altogether. So there we go. Somebody said I had to super chat that, so it's loud and clear. So there we go. We'll give it some more love there as well. Watching some stuff, looking for the next chat here. I said watching some stuff because I was reading Scott's. He said watching the film Joe Montana. I almost said Joe Montana because if I had to go to quarterbacks, obviously as a Niner fan, that's where I would have went to. So Scott, I'm right there with you, my guy. But like I said, when someone says the GOAT, it's still the same team, but it just immediately is Jerry Rice. And if again you tell me quarterback, I'm gonna go Montana. I can't give Brady the love, but I mean he is, but you know what I'm trying to say. Let's see. So two is saying he heard Johnson and Wilson being traded. Is that true? I haven't quite seen anything on it yet, but you know we'll see. We'll see what happens. As soon as we know, we'll let you guys know if we start to hear anything, especially come Friday. We'll see if there's any more rumblings, but I haven't heard anything serious about it yet. So we'll keep up to date. What happened to modding me, Rasta? I guess you made a trade with me. I guess I'll give you a mod. I'll try to figure that out. Let me try to figure that out. See if I can do that while I'm still talking here. I'll get through these. We're already past the go time, so might as well just keep her excuse me, keep her rolling. All right. At least let me get a drink here. It's been almost 2 hours. Dry throat. Bullseye said, really appreciate answering our questions. Yeah, man, this is what I love to do. I mean, this is honestly why I started the channel. I mean, I was in Sleeper. I was one of those degenerates in Sleeper, in the Sleeper threads, you know, answering people's questions and then giving me cookies. I don't know if you guys have been on Sleeper long enough to remember the cookies. And then I think they turned to beer mugs and that kind of stuff before they really, you know, launched as a platform. But yeah, man, I used to just do that all the time. I just had my 2 cents that I wanted to, you know, talk to people about. You can't talk to your friends that you're playing in leagues with. So I was like, you know, I'll just go here on Sleeper and do this kind of stuff. And then, yeah, one day we just said, hey, let's just start a channel and see if we can get some of those people that I'm talking to on Sleeper to come out and hang out here on YouTube with me for a while and make it a little easier on myself than sitting here thumbing everything out on my phone every day. So it's been awesome. 4 years, 1.3 subscribers later. So yeah, I really appreciate you, man, because without you guys asking the questions, I wouldn't be here to answer them, man. So there we go. Ricky says, at Bullseye for real, man. And he goes in depth too. He says, I had to drop a sub. Let's go, Ricky. Appreciate that, my guy. That's what we do it for, man. That's what we do it for. And yeah, I don't like to just give you quick answers. As you can tell, I'm just too degenerate. I try to go quick, but I just start rambling, especially with nobody else here with me to rein me in. I might spend 5 or 10 minutes on your question, as you guys have seen. Even a simple comment like this, I'm spending 30 seconds on. But again, for a new subscriber, I appreciate it, and hope to see you on more streams in the future. Make sure you go drop a sub to our affiliate channels as well, man. We got, of course, Kindle over at the Fantasy Football Tavern. You got the Extra Point with Phil Ruskin. Links are in the description. You got the Fantasy Boardroom, which I'm kind of covering with your chat right there, his logo. But all those links are down in the description. Make sure you guys go throw a sub to them as well. They put in a lot of work here. We love doing this stuff for you guys. And you think we do a lot here on the chat. We do even more just in our private chat. So it gets even crazier. All right. So where were we? Kind of lost my spot here. All right. Any news on CMC? Week 10. Eyeing a week 10 potential return after the bye. So let's hang in there, see how things go. You just hope to see when they come back after the week 9 bye, after this week 8 matchup against the Cowboys. We hope to see him starting to practice again, get in some limited and be full by Friday. And maybe we see him on Sunday to make his season debut. So I'm hoping, man. And again, I'm not wearing my hat today because my hair is still somewhat decent. But I am a big time Niners fan. And I can't wait to have him back, but I want him to be healthy. Let's see. What else we got here? Unity Music says start one of each. Caleb or Darnold. I'd go Darnold. Dell or Marvin. I'm still taking Marvin, man. Still taking Marvin, unfortunately. So we'll see. I have to still give it a little while longer. I expect a big second half for Marvin. That's how the rookies usually do. Again, Watson, Amon-Ra. This is how people break out. OBJ. Jamar Chase. Remember, he couldn't even catch a football because of the stripes and all that. And then he kind of did it from the start. He's a unicorn. We won't use that as an example, but Amon-Ra, Watson, these guys are able to do it. Let's see. Oh, Ricky says he's not even a Pats fan. I assumed that earlier as well, too. He just says, I just do research on like every team. Like I said, man, if Ricky, you want to write some stuff up, man, and put all that knowledge, like I said, that's how I started my channel. Hit me up. Maybe you're interested in the channel. If you don't like doing on-screen stuff like this and just want to write and get into the stats and stuff like that, I have a website. We could use a writer. I don't have a writer. I don't like to write. I just come in here and talk. So hit me up, like I said, and we'll see if we can get you some content published for you. Nino in the house. What's up, Nino? How's it going, man? Let's see. This mini said, if you trade for Juju, you're a dummy. I heard that earlier I think there was someone earlier trying to trade for Juju. But yeah, no, we don't want to do that. I wouldn't call him a dummy. We don't need to go to name calling here. I would just say it's not a very intuitive, smart idea at this point. So yeah, it says I'm here talking about my worries with Cubs health and trade rumors, and finally got an offer. If he feels like pulling the trigger, maybe. So he's sending Cup and Brian Robinson for Brees and Wan'Dale Robinson. Ooh, does he have anyone a little better than Wan'Dale? Like, I don't hate it. But I like that Cub and B-Rob for Brees and someone else. Just like I have Wan'Dale as like again, I'm just not a big fan of Daniel Jones. Like, yeah, that Neighbors was hurt, kind of showed out for a while. I think he's turning back into a pumpkin in before our very eyes. Wan'Dale still has the history and been putting up some good numbers. You could say he's maybe even playing a little bit better when Neighbors was there taking that attention. But if I can just get someone a little better than Wan'Dale, I thought that said Waddle at first, and I was like, you better go smash that, Nino, and come back to us. But I would look for, just a little bit, like you're not too far off at all. So I don't know if you're still here watching. Let me know who else he has, and maybe I would at least counter with it. And this is one of those things where, like, if he sent you that offer, I wouldn't counter the offer. I would create a whole new offer and say, what about this one? And if he goes, nah, or is not feeling it, then you go, all right. And then maybe just go ahead and accept it. Yeah. I would just need someone a little better. And again, I'm big on B-Rob, and I think Cup has that potential. But yeah, I just want someone a little better than Wan'Dale. A little better. Scott says, I agree. I know all the teams to do well in fantasy. Yeah, you have to. Wait till you start playing IDP and you get to know all the defensive guys too. It's real fun. All right, so Joe Kingsley here saying, which two do I start? Mason, Achane, Najee, and half PPR plus 10-point bonus at 10-point bonus at 100-yard rushing or receiving. I play in a 3-point. We get 3 points in my old school home league for 100 yards rushing or 100 yards receiving. Yeah, not combined, but one or the other. Because of that, I think Mason probably has the best chance to get there. And then if Tua's back, then I'm going to go Achane. I'm not the biggest Najee fan, so maybe there's some bias there. Just full disclosure, Joe. I always like to be clear on that with people. So I think I'd go Mason and Achane, just because Achane can win you any week, especially with Tua back. And their matchup, from what I recall when we were doing some stuff earlier, who do they have? Yeah, they're playing against Arizona, so easy matchup there. Like, it just takes, he could get 100 yards in a couple runs, if he breaks a big one. So there we go. And McConkey is better than Dunze. I think I was mentioning that earlier. I agree. Scott White said, I'm thinking Braylon Allen for Juju. I'm still not feeling Juju at this point, so I'd like to just keep Allen in case anything were to happen to Brees. Did I miss something here? Oh, okay. No, I was asking you guys to redraft the rookie class wide receivers now, and so Raven said Neighbors, BTJ, MHJ, and then Rome. So yeah, that's kind of what I was saying as well too. McConkey might be better in fantasy, but Odense is more talented, no question. I agree with that statement as well too, and that's why. I mean, that's why McConkey was drafted so much later. He's more of a slot guy, so. But you're the slot. Oh, Scott said, well, Ricky was saying how many people are in the league where he's trying to get Juju. It's a 16-team league, and he's picking up scraps. Yeah, but he's hurt, and they just traded for D-Hop. You might be able to stick it out with Braylon. He was kind of flexible, especially in the 16-team league there for a little while. Looks like it went back to the Brees show. I mean, Juju could be the 2 there behind D-Hop, and then you have Worthy in the slot. I mean, Juju typically is a slot, but he's a bigger slot type guy. That's tough, man. 16-team is a man's league, and yeah, sometimes you just got to take a risk on something like Juju like that. But if I'm getting Braylon, like maybe try to go get you probably can't get Juwan Jennings, but yeah, you might. I mean, maybe Ricky Pearsall. I don't know. Something like that. That's tough, though. That's tough. You're taking someone that you could potentially throw in there that might score a touchdown in this next week or two versus Juju, who might be out for three total weeks. So that's my only thing. Let's see. I got Ken in the house. He's saying Ken Bands. He says I got sent a trade which gives him CD Lamb and Achane, but he has to give up Scary Terry, Chubb, and Deontay Johnson. I would do that in a heartbeat. Scary Terry, Nick Chubb, and Deontay Johnson for Achane and Lamb. Bro, go do that as soon as you can. Yeah, even Ricky's saying, Ken, yes, do that, bro, without a question. So he said, thank you. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure we all agree there right now. So for sure, that's a risk you definitely take. Let's see. Ricky said, I honestly don't mind that he's taking so long to get to my comments because I know how much thought he's going to put into. So yeah, so as you can see, I do like to talk these things out. And yeah, just hit the 2-hour mark. Thought it was going to be a quick show by myself tonight, but yeah, man, appreciate you guys in the chat here coming up with all this stuff. This is good stuff. Izzy said he's picking up Chicago as I speak. So that was almost 30 minutes ago. So glad you got him. Chicago defense, again, may not be totally great. You hope Mariota starts, but pretty much Chicago's almost a set and forget defense at this point. They're one of the best in the league right now. So, yeah, just keep an eye on any injuries and stuff like that. Otherwise, you shouldn't have to worry about streaming for a while we're doing that. Again, because I don't know how to shut up and I don't have anyone here that I'm keeping them up. It's just me. Let's see what their rest of their schedule looks like. So week 8, we get Commanders, they get Arizona next, Patriots after that. Like maybe you go somewhere else when they play Green Bay in week 11. And then, yeah, there might be a 3-game span there. Green Bay, Vikings, and Lions where you may not be able to play them. Niners, unless they're like way back to full strength by then. Again, I don't think there's someone you're like running away from at this point, unfortunately. Then you get Minnesota and the Lions again, weeks 15 and 16, then Seattle week 17. So at least you'll know how the defense did against if you end up just keeping them and playing them against Minnesota and Detroit. You'll know kind of how they do, and if you could take the chance to start them in weeks 15 and 16. But at least for the next 3 weeks, you should be good, and then we'll just kind of see what's going on week 11 and where teams and players are at. So yeah, we'll go from there. Let's see what else are we seeing here. Yo, what's up, Tycoon? So Tycoon was in the house. This was like 30 minutes ago, but he said, Ross, last night I told people to try to buy Tyreek at a reasonable cost if possible. Some owners may be frustrated. Do you agree? I do agree. I just feel like that window is probably shut now with the news that Tua could be back this week. I think anyone who's held and put up with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle this entire time. Like, why would you sell him like 4 days before Tua comes back to the lineup? Unless they think that even with Tua coming back, or maybe they lose him immediately again. So maybe if you're kind of playing that angle with somebody and you get them kind of worried about it. But yeah, I mean, like you said, at a reasonable cost, if you want to take that chance, like, this is your time to do it, because once they start putting up numbers again, Tyreek's going to go to untradeable. Remember, he was drafted as basically the wide receiver 1 overall, or at least, top 3, top 5 pick overall, in most, especially PPR leagues. So yeah, I think last week was that week. Like, that was the last week you were going to get him. And he's been a buy low for us here on the Wednesday show for the last, I think 3 weeks. I was saying just buy any Dolphins player that you can, Waddle, Hill, and Achane. If you can get them, go get them, because soon they'll be untradeable again. So good comment. Appreciate that. Let's see. Ricky said, that is appreciated and very true. Rasta doesn't half-ass his answers. He does a legitimate effort into his responses, and sometimes we keep talking about them later. Yeah, like I said, our group chat gets going crazy. So yeah, make sure you guys are throwing Tycoon here a sub, for the fantasy boardroom. He's live on Tuesdays here. Links are down in the description. So make sure you go throw him a sub and get his takes as well, man. Great addition to the channel. I appreciate you, Tycoon. Gilbert says, well, he has Devonta Smith as wide receiver. I can maybe wait the 2 weeks for Collins with Waddle and Hopkins / Slad. I mean, if Devonta Smith, man, he was my buy low. He was on the thumbnail. If you can get that upgrade, maybe even if you have it, add a little piece in there too. If you might go back to your question here. It was a little while ago. I may not be able to find it. I kind of remember it. Oh, here we go. So this was the Saquon. Yeah, so if you can get Saquon and Devonta Smith in here for JT, MHJ, and Kraft, like that I would do. Gilbert. So for sure, go check that out. For sure, try to make that happen. For sure. So good stuff there. Jay Smells, what's up, man? How's it going? Should I trade Adams and White for Achane? That's a tough one. Like I said, your buy low window on Achane is slamming shut. With him and Rodgers over there now, it's a little more interesting. I just was fading Adams because I didn't believe in the Raiders offense this year. White, as you saw, I kind of had as a potential buy low or even a sell high, depending. I think he's one of those guys that kind of fits, either way, which I think makes him a perfect trade candidate, actually, when someone's kind of in the middle like that. And, but again, Achane can win you weeks. I don't think, Adams, I think, is a nice, wide receiver too. We've seen kind of what his floor is here with Rodgers. Will it get better? He'll be nice when he scores, in weeks, the weeks he scores. I'm sure he'll be a, wide receiver 1, most likely. But I think I would personally take that chance. If it's Zamir White, I'm for sure doing it. Rashad White a little closer, but again, with that triple-headed backfield there, it's almost kind of like Adams and White for Achane. But you got to remember too, like we always say, and I know Phil said it on the earlier show when I was watching, you also got to take into consideration that empty roster spot, which can be valuable, especially with bye weeks coming up and the crazy bye NATO coming in weeks 10, 12, and 14. So, and really 12 and 14 are the big ones. So having that extra spot and kind of tearing up a little bit there, I don't mind doing it. So especially if you're kind of really hurting at running back and you have some solid, wide receiver depth to be able to lose Adams, then I don't mind getting that upgraded for Achane. But, you are kind of giving up a lot. So again, really kind of depends on your team need. And, again, just kind of depends on what risk you're willing to take. My guy here, Tycoon, says I wouldn't personally for him. But yeah, like I said, it's close. Like it goes either way. I know he's a bigger Adams fan than I am. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I still think there's some potential there with him and Adams, but if you really want a little more kind of solid running back with two potentially coming back, I don't mind this move again, as long as you have the wide receiver depth. And you have a good record. You're 5-2, 5-2, 6-1, 7-0, just to make sure Tua comes back, stays back. Because again, you just have to remember, should he get hurt again, Achan's value is going to plummet potentially again too. So, it could go either way. I don't think I lean one way or the other. I feel like I'm kind of right in the middle on it. But I don't mind. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, that was a terrible trade if you went and got Achan. So again, just depends on how you want to play. We got a 3P1C fail. Which handcuff is most droppable? Algier, Ray Davis, Braylon Allen, or Charbonnet? Man, I'm like storing all these guys on all my leagues. And I mean, if I had a crystal ball to see who was going to get hurt next, so to speak, it'd be an easy call. I think you have to start talking about who has standalone value. It looks like Ray Davis is starting to have some standalone value. Algier has this weird, sneaky kind of standalone value, so to speak, but it's not really there when you really dive deep into the numbers. He's just had some kind of weird situations and good matchups and scoring a touchdown here and there. But I think only one game with more than 10 touches. And you got Braylon Allen, who looks like he was maybe taking Breece's job there for a while, but has since come back down to earth. And Charbonnet's basically been irrelevant since Ken Walker's been back. Even a sick Ken Walker outproduced him this weekend. But we've seen, when Ken Walker's out, he's been able to produce well. I'd probably say right now, if I had to drop anyone out of these three guys, it's probably going to be Braylon Allen at the moment. Just with the addition of Devontae Adams, I think that takes away any of Allen's potential starting, standalone flex appeal compared to the other three. So I think I'd go Braylon Allen on that one. Let's see. Ricky said that would be awesome, man. We could definitely figure something out with the stats. Oh, let's go, man. So yeah, hit me up at Rastafarian on pretty much any platform. Our emails getrightff@gmail.com. So yeah. We have Dylan. I'm not sure what that means, but just hit me up. Just hit me up on what you meant about that. Scott says Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton if he's healthy. Dalton's definitely not starting this week, so it's going to be Jameis Winston this week. Overall, moving forward, if Andy does get the job back, probably Winston. I mean, he's always been great for fantasy. So not great for as your franchise quarterback for your real team in real football, but for fantasy purposes, it's 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 7 picks. He puts himself in a hole and then has to throw himself out of it. But we'll see what he can do there in Cleveland. Dylan said, "Yeah, I'm kind of screwed in our league. I realized quick I didn't have any bench whatsoever." We all realized we didn't have any bench whatsoever, Dylan. So don't beat yourself up about it, man. It's just Russian roulette, man. You got to dodge the got to just dodge the injuries, man. That's what it is tonight. We're definitely in overtime, man. I definitely got to cut it off soon. It's almost midnight here, but I'm going to try to get to these questions. There's not too many more. I'd hate to stop now. So let's try to get through these. Ricky said Bengals rookie tight end Eric all ran more routes than Mike Gesicki in week 7. That's a first. If you want a deep league tight end with sleeper upside, I think all is him. We've been talking about him. Go back to like our week 3 waiver wire, week 4 waiver wire ads, even when I think Gesicki had like that big game. Also had, a lot of usage as well. I think that was before Higgins came back. So yeah, Eric All, especially in dynasty leagues, definitely like keep an eye on all those tight end premium dynasty leagues. Make sure he's rostered. Let's see. Andre, how do you feel about the Niners fans panicking, saying fire Shanahan if they miss the playoffs? As a Niners fan, I don't know if we're saying that. I mean, we're still winning. Once you've kind of winning at this clip over the last 5 years and come up short, twice literally with the lead in the fourth quarter, I don't even want to start having this conversation at this moment here, Andre. Kind of mad that you made me go here, but I'm not one of those people as a Niners fan that's saying fire Shanahan. I still don't know why he can't just win. We're talking back from the Atlanta days, giving up the 45-3, and then of course Chiefs, lead with 8 minutes left in the fourth, and then in this one, having a chance and still giving up, losing in overtime. You feel like you just want to make a change, but I mean, we were on the losing side for a long time, for a few years there. It was not good since our Super Bowl against Baltimore that we lost as well. Then we went through a drought there for a while. Ton of different coaches. So it's nice to just have someone back. I like the way our offense kind of runs. There's things, of course, we'd all would want to change. It's not 100% perfect. But to be in contention every year and to be a serious team and a contender, and I personally like Shanahan myself. Yeah, he does some weird stuff every once in a while, but who doesn't? So yeah, I just think that just comes with high expectations, man. And Niners fans some of them are weird. That's why I like actually Phil and Tycoon. They're kind of down to earth Niners fans. So that's why we all get along. Let's see. So he said, I don't know if Rasta feels the same. That's hilarious. I didn't even see this. He says, Rasta feels the same at Andre, but as a fellow Niner fan, those fans are dumb as you know what. And basically I said that just in a couple more words. But yeah, so we're a little weird. I'm still at running back. So losing CMC and Bigsby were major. I'm using Godson as my RB2 right now. Or Goodson is my RB2. Yeah, with Jonathan Taylor coming back, you're going to have to keep playing that waiver game. So just make sure you check out, who's there. You just hopefully CMC coming back week 10. He's not going to be the number 1 overall pick, I doubt. They're going to use Mason. They're not going to put, at least they shouldn't put too much work on CMC. Really going to kind of depend what our record's at. And, if we have a chance, not have a chance, kind of see how, things are shaking out. Or maybe they have to put him in there and just use him. And who knows, maybe till the wheels fall off. I don't know what the mentality is going to be there. But yeah, I mean, that's your hero RB build. And when your hero RB goes down, you're kind of in a tough situation if none of the other guys, get hurt right away. So just keep watching the show. Keep watching the waiver wires. We'll try to find some running backs that you can just squeeze in there, like Dearness Johnson coming in there, squeezing out 10 PPR points for me this weekend. Actually in a dynasty league deep bench, I was able to snag him up as the ETN owner just this previous week. And I was able to start him once I got the word ETN was out and got me 10 points. And I got the win, and it was nice to make it happen. So I will try to help you out like that as much as we can. We got Darius here, says you sound sleepy, bud. You should go to bed. You did great today. I'm right there with you, man. I am getting a little worn down here, but I want to power through these. Not too many more, so we'll make it happen, my guy. It's more my voice, I think, more than anything. But I feel excited. I feel excited. I'm happy to have you guys here asking these questions. There's nothing worse than like a dead show with nobody in the chat. I mean, yeah, you get through your show sheet quickly and you have your content out and you can go to bed, quote unquote. But again, I started this channel because this is what I like to do, man. Talking to you guys. If you guys go back to our earlier days, we were doing live shows with 0 viewers. So to have this going on and have the chat popping off like this, this is literally, what we dreamed of, man. So wouldn't trade it for anything. That's why I'm still here 2 hours and 18 minutes in. Ryan's in here saying, I have Worthy on the bench. Should I dump him and get Ray Davis or Jerome Tracy Jr.? Tracy Jr. looks a little interesting there. Like I said, Ray Davis seems, I'd rather target that offense versus the Giants offense, but, we've seen him kind of produce there. Tracy he's looked good, definitely looks like he's earned a split with Singletary there as he's battling his way back, I believe, from a groin injury, I think Singletary was dealing with. I mean, obviously, before you just kind of drop someone like Worthy, I'd like to try to trade him, first, if you can, maybe package him up 2 for 1 to open up a spot to get Ray Davis or Tracy, or maybe even do a 3 for 1 and grab both these guys, plus whoever you traded for as well, too. So it really kind of just depends on who you have. And he said, Worthy or Ricky Pearsall. I'm personally probably sticking with Worthy for a little bit longer, but we could very well be here on Monday saying, oh, go pick up Ricky Pearsall, depending on what he does this week. We'll see how that speed translates and if he's fully back and recovered. So Ricky, I see you got some more Pat stats, man, but because of the time, I am going to kind of pass it here. If it was like an hour ago, I would for sure read it off. But just bring that same energy back on the Friday show, man. And we'll definitely get to it for sure. And like I said, this is why we got to get you on the website so you can just have all that there. Let's see. Who else we got? Is Baker Mayfield worth picking up for later weeks? I mean, he's not going to be who he was, obviously, without Godwin and Mike Evans. You could probably stay there for a while. If it's, super flex, you probably got to, grab him. Again, still has some weapons there. We don't know how McMillan, Shepard, 31-year-old Shepard who hasn't been able to stay healthy in years, how he's going to hold up with that type of workload. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I would assume there's maybe some better options out there for you, but really just depends on who else you're holding that spot over. Like I'd rather have Jawan Jennings, right now to see what happens there. I might even rather have one of those backup running backs, Ray Davis, all those guys we mentioned, earlier, versus holding a quarterback that you may not even be able to start right now, especially as we go through these crazy bye weeks coming up. So I don't think anyone's going to be in a rush to pick up Baker because we all saw the same thing. So I think you're safe to leave him there for now. Let's see. We have a 3P1C fail again saying, which QB would you start? Gino with no DK versus Buffalo. Ooh, appreciate you put the matchups in there. Bo Nix versus Carr, May versus Detch, or A-Rich versus Houston. The only thing that would have topped this question off more is if you let me know if it was a 4-point or 6-point per passing touchdown league when you're asking about quarterbacks, because sometimes that makes a difference. But I think Bo Nix against Carolina, obviously, just with that matchup, could be interesting there. Drake May versus the Jets might be a little tough with that defense. And Gino, he's not bad against Buffalo. Could be a shootout there. So I'd probably put him in the order you have it. Gino, Nix, and May. You're dating me now here, Ravens. Not like dating me, but as in dated, as in my age. He says, I was in the middle school when the Niners lost to the Ravens in the Super Bowl. He's 26 now. Damn, good times. Yeah, let's not talk about how old I was when that happened, but I am turning 40 next month. So there we go. I have a son that's 18, almost 19. So you're almost the age of my kid there, Ravens. So, geez, getting too old for this. Oh man, we're down to the last one here. Mr. Romeo says half PPR, start one. I feel like you guys, after I started saying that, you guys stop dropping stuff in the chat to let me go home, or I'm already home, but to get off the stream. But yeah, just again, you guys can always leave comments, man. Make sure you guys can hit us up all the time. Ask Ravens. I'll talk to you guys, throughout the day through the Sleeper app. There's always a way to get a hold of us, so make sure you guys check out that description that has all of our contact info there. We have an awesome Sleeper Thread community channel there. It's like the first link at the very top of the description. There's a thread there where you can ask questions or post your own question. A lot of you guys are starting to use that more now. So definitely take a look at that. And, always a way to get in touch with us. But now that we're live almost 7 days a week, you can just have those notifications on, hit that subscribe button to all of our affiliate channels, as well as the Get Right Fantasy Network channel. And, we'll be here to take your questions. Half point PPR, start one. Dowdle, Tracy, Deontay, or Pearsall. I think I'm going to roll with Dowdle in this week. Going up against the Niners. Our Niners haven't been doing great against the run. They just let Kareem Hunt, who just came off his couch, to score, 26 carries, 100 and something yards and like 2 touchdowns. We're just middle of the pack against the run this year. Man, we miss Greenlaw, who might be coming back fairly soon here. But yeah, totally missing Greenlaw. Fred Warner's been playing like a beast, but he can't do it all. He's been a little banged up as well. But yeah, so we're averaging about 18.5 fantasy points to the running back position. We just had Kareem Hunt score, like I said, 2 touchdowns, 78 yards on 22 carries. Who else did well? Kyron Williams destroyed us, 24 carries, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Giving up 6 total touchdowns here on the season. Giving up 5 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. 3 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. So yeah, we've been kind of getting a little tore up here on the ground. Dowdle coming off the bye, maybe he finds the end zone. So I definitely like him over the other folks there in half PPR. Tycoon says one more. African swallow or European swallow? I don't even know what that is, man. Is that like a bird or something? I don't even know what that means. You're gonna have to text me about that. He said, sorry, I had to do it, brother. All good, man. All good. Which kicker play? Jigger the kicker or Riker? That was the guy I was talking about earlier from Minnesota. Give me the Minnesota kicker and Riker there to end the show with the kicker question. Perfect. 3P 1C fail said, are you really 40? Technically, no, not until next month, man. Not really 40 yet, so still sitting at 39. If I move this mic out of the way, you can see the gray in the beard, my guy. And usually I have a hat on because this, as you can see, some of it's lighting, but otherwise it kind of does look like this, which is why if you go back and look at our past streams, most of the time I'm wearing a hat, unless I have my hair fairly freshly cut. But as soon as this starts filling in a little bit, I throw the hat on. But yeah, so I'm putting it in. All right, so he said, "Oh, it's a Phil." Oh, I have seen it, man. I'm more of like a Robin Hoodman in tights, and a Spaceballs. I didn't really do Holy Grail. It like just missed me. I have seen it a few times, but it wasn't something I watched kind of like religiously. But yeah, Spaceballs. We ain't found shit, like all that kind of stuff. Like that's my stuff right there. Tycoon and yeah, Dave Chappelle and Robin Hoodman in tights, man. That's the best. Yeah, see, there we go. So yeah, those are my favorite parody movies for sure. And then of course your Hot Shots, Hot Shots Part 2, Naked Gun 33 and a third, OJ. I mean, you got all that stuff going on there. So yeah, so there we go. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up here, man. We'll call it a night there. Again, I appreciate you guys for coming in, hanging out. 2.5 hour stream, man, on a Wednesday. It's good stuff. Trades are happening. I personally made 2 trades myself today. Again, did one with Ravens earlier. Also did another one in a dynasty league, BTJ straight up for Puka Nacua. So I was able to get Brian Thomas, traded away Puka. In that one, I'm kind of in 5th place out of 10, 1 QB dynasty league. So I think that was pretty cool. Other than that, man, yeah, just let's keep it going. Again, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button for us. We will be back here with 2 shows on Friday. We'll have 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern to do part 1. Kendall from the Fantasy Football Tavern and my previous co-host on Fridays, Classic Mike from the Get Right Fantasy Network. Those 2 will go break down half the slate. They'll recap, of course, the Thursday night football game, break down half of the Sunday game slate in the first 2 hours. And then myself and Phil from the Extra Point with Phil Ruskin. He and I will break down the second half of the game slates, including the Monday night games. We'll let you know who we're starting, who we're sitting in each one of those games. We'll go over the injuries. And then, of course, we'll have a big time live Q&A segment leading up to our Sunday show, last minute active and active list with Classic Mike. So we will be here again. Let me throw up the little banner here. We got all of these shows for you guys here. We're pretty much live all the time. So yeah, make sure you guys are coming in here, come hang out, be a part of what we do here in the community. Again, it's not just a quick answer show. As you see, we like to get involved with people, man, because I care. I like doing this stuff for you guys. So, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't have someone with me here tonight. So I was able to go 2.5 hours. So we'll get it done. Wife might be mad at me, but we were able to get it done. So yeah, so we'll end it there, man. Again, for all of us here at Get Right Fantasy Network, we will see you guys on Friday. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I better get it out before we go out of here. So we will go ahead and see you guys here on Friday. From all of us here at Get Right, man, from my boy Frank, who's usually here with me on Wednesdays dealing with his old plumbing issue at home, man. Hope that all got worked out. For Tycoon, who's here in the chat. From our boys Phil and Kendall. With our affiliate channels, of course, my boy Classic Mike, of course, my brother-in-law Dustin, one of the OGs of founders of the channel. Hasn't been on lately, but hopefully we'll get him on here soon. But either way, man, we all appreciate it. Love the support. Tell your friends about us, man. Come hang out on our live shows. Make sure you get in there and be part of the Sleeper channel. I'm just kind of lollygagging now so I can get to the outro. So yeah, we'll see you guys on Friday, man. Peace out. Have a good night.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing, but I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go